Hello and welcome to the Transatlantic Call-In Show. This is a show where we take calls talking about trans issues or other issues. If our callers have other things they want to talk about, we're open to touching on whatever from that skeptic point of view. So yeah, I'm Luxander. Hello. And with me co-hosting today is Dr. Ben. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm I'm angry, and
Mhm.
apparently my allergies are acting up too. But no, but we wake up every day in this hellscape, and it doesn't end. It keeps getting worse, and it keeps like I can't tell half the time if this is a fever dream, if I'm
Mhm.
just like in a coma somewhere, and this is like just a nightmare that's going on, or like if
Yeah.
this is actually real. Like I can't like the things that are happening. Not only are they infuriating and just morally unacceptable, but it is just
Mhm.
like batshit insane at this point. Like, it's so hard to draw the line between like fiction and reality, and I'm sure everyone's feeling the same way. That like it's so hard to even tell what satire is anymore, and I'm even getting frustrated with satire because I can't tell
Mm.
the difference. Like satire
Yeah,
doesn't
getting some
work when
Poe's
it's
Law.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But how have you
And
been?
internationally too, I've been like not paying attention to what's going on in the UK because everything in our country is falling apart. And like obviously we have
Yeah,
concerns beyond just what's happening to trans people. Um,
yeah,
but then, this terrible news out of the UK and like we don't even have time to get into it today.
yeah,
So yeah. TLDR, everybody who's trans is kind of struggling, and it would be nice if you would check in on people once in a while. This little PSA.
yep, yep.
But gotta just keep things together, keep it moving. So in that spirit, let's talk about last week's poll because I was not here and I did go check what it was, but I don't remember what it was.
There
It
you go.
was, is
Oh
the stock
God.
market crash because of trans athletes? uh, I'm sure that a lot of those yeses were people being funny, because sometimes our audience does
Yeah.
that. But also, like in a way, kind of like they campaigned on the trans issue, and the trans athletes issue seems to be one of their kind of first step shoe in. Oh, any reasonable person could blah 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 blah. So yeah, I mean, like in a dominoes falling kind of way, you could say that the stock market crashes because of trans athletes.
Yeah. Yeah, true. It's one of those things too that like there's so many memes going around, so much about this like this idea that there's only so many trans people. What was it the governor of which state? Was it Utah recently that came up with that really actually
Oh,
awesome
yeah, this was,
statement?
like, only
Yeah.
affecting one trans girl in the whole state. It was a very
Yeah.
compassionate statement, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's affecting one trans person in the whole state. Like, why are we focused on like this small minority of people when there are economic issues, there are immigration issues, there are all this other stuff that's affecting so many more people right now? And like, I
Mhm.
would love to just not have to worry about the trans athletes thing. Like, it would be great if they could just play sports. Like, let those trans athletes play sports. That's not a big issue right now. Like,
Yeah.
can we move our attention to something a little bit, you know, more urgent, a little bit more important? But no, it's clearly the stock market crash is because of trans people.
Yep.
Y'all ever wonder if the three of us are gonna die in an El Salvadorian prison? Because I do.
I do too. Yeah, I definitely
Yeah,
cry about it on a semi-regular basis, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, I just saw today too, this is kind of unrelated, and I'm prepared to move on past this, but I wanna just, like, mention that, I think I just saw today someone saying that we might consider people defending, Abrigo Garcia's right to, due process, like, that you could be associated with terrorism by just saying that a person deserves the right to due process. So, yeah, I do
yeah,
worry every day. Even though I am a well-behaved citizen, I worry. It's not fun. So
yeah.
yeah, the world is falling apart and it's trans people's fault. TLDR, I guess.
Yep. Yep, definitely there's no other party responsible. Nobody else actually making decisions that are affecting a large amount of people.
Ridiculous.
It's
Ridiculous to
definitely
even
trans people. Yeah,
suggest. All
right.
right. Anyway, so thank you all for answering that poll last week. We're going to very briefly look at next week's poll, but we're not going to get into a discussion about it right this moment. I just want you to see that it's up there, and you can go to the community posts tab, is I think what it's called now, posts on the main YouTube channel. And sometimes Arden puts a little poll in the chat for you too. I don't know if we're doing that today, but you can go let us know what you think of. Do you think that players should be disqualified for unsportsmanlike conduct if they refuse to compete with trans athletes? So we will come back around to that later. But all that said, I think we're just about ready to take some calls. We've got some positive, potentially good, spicy calls today. Do you have any preference, Ben, on where we start here?
Yeah, I mean the first one on the list and the second one on the list is probably going to be that way too. But I think we could probably even just go down the list and
Yeah,
take them that
because
way.
people have been waiting for 20 minutes and we want to make sure y'all get
Yeah.
in here. So let's go ahead and start with V, who wants to talk about children transitioning, basically, minors transitioning. So V, hello, you are live on the line with Luxander and Ben. How are you doing today?
Hello?
Hello, yes, I can hear you.
Oh, I didn't hear you say my name. My bad.
Nope, it's all good.
Yeah, so I just had a quick question. I was wondering if I could read it to you and then just go from there, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Since
Lay it out for us.
Real quick,
topic-
can we
Yeah, so-
confirm that this is meant to be? I think something might have gotten switched up.
Did we get
I don't think
on
this is. I don't think this is V. I think this might be. Caller, your name isn't V, is it?
No.
What is it
Oh.
supposed?
Oh, okay.
I think I
It's
figured it.
Zach.
You're Zach. Okay, this is
Zach.
fixed.
Okay, sorry, Zach. We had an
Oh, you
issue
still
with
want me to
the.
continue?
Yeah, please.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
please.
Okay. One second, I'm gonna take a drink of water. All right. Given that adolescents' brains and identities are still developing, how can we ethically justify supporting medical interventions like hormone treatments and/or potential surgeries in minors, especially when some studies
Zach.
show that a certain
Yeah, Zach. Is medical care determinate? Like, is it based on somebody's stage of development? Do we just wait for people to be developmentally complete before we give them any medical care?
no, not necessarily.
Right. Okay. So what makes this different?
I guess my concern would just be, are the recipients of this type of care, which would be children under the age of 18, are their brains
Does that
fully
matter?
developed?
Does that matter, Zach? Do we withhold medical care from people because they're minors?
No, but I'm
Okay,
trying to
so
think
what's
of
different? So what's different about this type of medical care? Why are you singling this one out as a reason that they should have completed development before they get this type of care?
Okay, I guess just where I'm coming from is, just because they can make the decisions for themselves, do they know and understand the risks? Do they critically think through all possibilities?
I think we're kind of wondering what is unique about this care, because all medical care holds a risk. Like all medical care holds a risk.
Yeah, and there are specific reasons why I'm asking you these questions.
But is the risk of this care greater than other risks?
Zach, do you understand? Okay, so here's why I'm asking a lot of these questions. Because this is a very nuanced topic. And I want to know, I want to get to the bottom of what your understanding is of what exactly goes into this care, but also what goes into someone's ability to consent to care and kind of the medical legal aspects of this, because it's more complicated, I think, than you're fully understanding. Can you tell me what criteria are involved in determining someone's eligibility for gender affirming care as a minor. So like describe to me the process as you understand it of how a minor gets gender affirming care.
And I'll just be upfront. I'm not like an expert on this. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, but tell me your understanding. Tell me your understanding of what that process is, because I think if I can fill in some of the gaps of where you're missing some knowledge, it makes a bit more sense of why the process works the way that it does, and some of the concerns that you have might not be as concerning as you might think. So, what is your understanding of the process?
A child brings up a concern or question that they may be struggling with. They probably seek psychological therapy, counseling, and they're probably evaluated. And depending on what criteria they meet, they prescribe them certain treatments, I'm guessing, and then you just kind of funnel it down until they qualify for those hormone treatments or puberty blockers, etc. I don't think every kid can just go get it.
Yeah, you're right. They can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your understanding of who gets medical therapy or surgical therapy and who doesn't?
Oh, I know it's rare for adolescents.
Yeah. So specifically, I can delineate a little bit of this. I appreciate you giving an honest summary of your understanding of the issue. And you're right that not everybody gets these kinds of therapies. Pretty much if a child of any age comes to their parents and they say, hey, I believe that I'm trans or I'm non-binary, any of that stuff, the first step, if they're looking to do any kind of medical intervention, the first step is social transition and psychotherapy. Like those are pretty much standard across the board, any age that is appropriate, because those are reversible things and they're evidence-based for anything, even if you're not trans. You can go to psychotherapy and it's okay, even if you're not trans. Then what happens after that is dependent on their age of development. So, so super young children are really only going to qualify for social transition and psychotherapy. And then the whole goal is age-appropriate transition. So where your concerns are about, are they developed enough to make this decision, that actually does factor into what part of the transition process they have access to. And so as they get older, you can only start medications if you are in puberty, because there's no point in starting a puberty blocker if you're not already in puberty. It will do absolutely nothing for you. So by that point, usually on the earlier end, and these are medications we give at the earliest to people who have too early of puberty, even ages like 6 or 7, but that's not for trans indications. That's just for early puberty. But for trans kids, it's often on the earlier end, maybe age 8 or 9, probably on the later end, age like 11, 12, and beyond that, to start a puberty blocker. Which really doesn't block puberty. It doesn't prevent you from ever going through puberty. It just pauses it temporarily until you decide what the next route is that you're going to go down. When you're older than that, if you're going to do cross-sex hormone therapy, it is a very slow and gentle process. And oftentimes you're going to be on either, depending on which direction you're going, either a puberty blocker at the same time to kind of slow down your puberty and allow for an age-appropriate dosing of hormone therapy to be given to you. For example, if an adolescent, like trans man or trans masculine person, wants to suppress their periods, they might be on a birth control at the same time as testosterone, or they might be on a puberty blocker to suppress that because the dose of testosterone that you need to suppress it is really high, much higher than you'd get at that expected age. So it's a pretty delicate process of titrating those medications to be safe for their development. And there's a huge screening process to even be granted a puberty blocker or to be granted hormone replacement therapy. And then as far as surgical transition, that's really not an option until much later. genital surgeries you have to be over 18 to get. And top surgery is really the only one that you're going to see in adolescence, and that is usually age 15, 16, which in some states you do have the right to consent at that age. So as far as consent goes, that's a whole other topic as well that we can brush on. But those people oftentimes, if you're being prescribed a surgical method in kind of late adolescence, or even if you're getting hormone replacement therapy or puberty blockade earlier, these are not the kids that have like zero symptoms. Like, sure, you can be trans and not have gender dysphoria, but that's not criteria to get you medical therapy at this point in time. You have to have a significant amount of psychological and social distress in order to get this. So it's a very painstakingly slow and deliberate process to see who gets access to these medications. And oftentimes the kids that are getting them are the ones that are the highest risk. They've been inpatient for psych issues. They've had issues like in school with their family, etc. And so the only way to keep them safe in their everyday life is to go forward with these therapies. So there's a huge like wall of red tape that you have to cross in order to even be prescribed this. So I know I'm talking at you a lot because it's very complex, and I hope you're understanding the complexity of this. I'll stop here and see if you have any thoughts before I kind of touch on more of the consent issue. But what are your thoughts on that whole process?
I understand from point A to point whatever the ending point for the whole process. You explained it well. A question that came to mind, and this is kind of like what I'm stuck up on, is, hear me out here. When I was a kid, what I thought was best for me in life, or at that point in time, was not the best. Or what I thought was best for me wasn't right. But then what?
So this is where consent comes in. So this is where consent comes in, because it's not one person making the decision. So the difference between adult medical management and medical management of minors is the consent piece. And an adult can walk into any clinic that provides gender affirming care, and they can say, I want this for my body. I know the risks and benefits. I'm going to do it. And we can just sign off and say, yep, here you go. Here's your meds. Or like, here's your surgery. Like, that's allowed for adults. That's
point,
not,
or what I was trying to say.
No, because I know where you're getting at with this, and I'm going to address it with this point. It's different for children because they cannot consent. You're getting at a point where minors don't know the best thing for them because their brains aren't fully developed. And so I'm addressing this
No,
point,
that wasn't actually what I was going to say.
What were you going to say?
What I was saying is, that's why I mentioned, just hear me out here. Okay, so when I was an adolescent, what I thought was right for me at the time ended up not being correct or right. But then also when I was an adolescent, what my parents thought or people I looked up to thought was best for me during that point in time.
Zach, this is why I'm trying to talk to you. This is why you should have just shut up and listened to me, because I'm addressing this exact point. So what I'm getting at with consent is because consent is not a unilateral process for minors. You are not allowed as a minor to say, I want this thing, give it to me medically. You're not allowed to do that unless there's a very rare chance that, like, if you're, again, like 15, 16, and you're in a state that allows for emancipation of minors, and sometimes if you're in a state where you're allowed emancipation for pregnancy, that's an exception that, can happen. But we're talking about trans people. You cannot unilaterally make that decision as a trans minor. You have to have parental consent, and you have to have the recommendation of usually not just one physician. You have to have, like, your primary care physician or whoever is the one trying to prescribe you this medication. You have to have your psychologist or psychiatrist sign off on this. And often a lot of states won't even allow for somebody with a master's degree to do it. They'll require a PhD in, like, psychology to do it for you. And oftentimes, depending on how old you are, you have to have a pediatric endocrinologist or an adolescent medicine specialist. So you have at least, like at minimum, 2 providers, if not 3 or 4, and your parents and the patient all sign off on this before it's done. So your argument of, well, kids can't make the right decision for themselves, that's irrelevant because they're not the only person making the decision. It is a whole team of people deciding what is the best course of action, what is going to be the least amount of harm done to this person.
Yeah, and well, if I was allowed to finish, I was going to ask the question, who makes the decision for the adolescent? Is it just them?
Yeah, and
the
that's what I
parents, or
just
a combination? And
it's a combination of all of the above. Yeah. And so what the argument that is often, it's framed very poorly, and I think often so intentionally, is meant for you to think that minors are making these decisions on their own and that they're just being handed whatever they want. And that is inaccurate because that does not happen. What the actuality is, it's just like any other medical complaint, which is why we started off the call the way that we did, because it's the same case where a patient goes to their clinic and they say, I'm having this issue. What do I do about it? And then it's not the patient just being handed whatever they want. It's, you have to still go through the whole process to make sure it's appropriate and that all of the steps are being taken. And that process is much more strict with minors.
I understand that. You explained it well. But
so what's your hesitation still?
My hesitation?
Yeah, why do you say but? If you understand what Ben just said, why are you why do you say but? I'm curious.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just like a tick thing.
Sure.
Okay.
Now I forgot what I was gonna say. But I feel like I didn't mean to come off as like, I don't know if you guys think I'm like trying to troll or something, but I'm like genuinely curious. I didn't mean to like upset you guys by asking this question. That's all.
No, I think you're being honest, but I think there's an issue within society of, like, there's a lot of Dunning-Kruger going around right now, and I apologize if I come across as very blunt, because there are a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about, and they will come across as the most confident person in the room, and they will pretend like they are experts better than anybody else. And I've like, it's burnt me out a little bit, but it's a thing where
I'll tell you right now, I'm
the
not an
commonplace
expert.
arguments are not accurately presenting the information, and people overly simplify a very complex and nuanced topic. And instead of referring to the experts and instead of looking into this more and becoming informed, they pretend like the issue is just as simple as they think it is. So I appreciate the fact that you've been open to listening and that you haven't been as combative as some other people. But that's kind of where maybe like some of my biases are, and I'm worried that it's going to turn into a fight like those other ones. So I apologize for my end of that.
And then can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Real quick. So is this the process that you just explained that's complex and takes time, expertise, and careful consideration? Are there chances that children or adolescents can go through the whole process and end up wanting to detransition and or regret their decision of doing it?
Yeah,
once they get to adulthood.
There's a chance of that with literally any medical treatment ever. And a great example of this is like, people bring up knee replacements, really any knee surgery. Shoulder surgeries are a big one because people often end up worse with their shoulder than before they had the surgery. Another one is surgeries for prostate cancer. There are a lot of people that would rather have prostate cancer than have had a surgery because it impacts their sexual health and really reduces their quality of life. Another big one is pregnancy. Pregnancy regret rates are incredibly high, especially in states that do not allow for contraception and don't allow for abortion. And emergency C-sections, of course, are very, very high regret rates into, I see varying statistics between like 30% and 60%, depending on what paper you look at. But that's a very traumatic experience for a lot of people. So if people want to say that regret rate is a reason to prevent people from getting access to care, then you have to look at the other things and say, should we just ban pregnancy? Should we ban knee surgeries? Should we not allow other medical therapies to be done? Because yeah, there is a chance that people could regret it, but the rate of regret for trans people is so much lower than any of the examples I gave. And it's so much lower than most medical therapies we're giving for any other medical condition. The evidence is so heavily stacked in favor of trans people, and it's very rare. Like, it's very rare that different disciplines of medicine will agree on things. And it is honestly very impressive that you have as many medical organizations all on the same page for gender affirming care, because like if you read a lot of those journals, like you have cardiology and nephrology are mortal enemies. They don't agree on anything. Endocrinology, rheumatology, they don't agree on things. Surgery doesn't agree with anybody either. So when they all agree, it's like, okay, maybe there's something here. So take that as you will. But regret rates, what we can do to reduce these regret rates even further is, like I was saying, continue with the established guidelines, make sure that people are accurately performing the evaluations, communicating appropriately, having multidisciplinary teams, and improving diagnostic criteria and guidelines as we go, continuing to do research and all of that. I think that improving the regret rates is still a positive thing. But getting it to absolute zero is impossible for anything.
Okay. And then I did some research prior to this, and correct me if I've fallen into some like propaganda trap or something, but is there long-term evidence for adolescent children going through this process? And then
Yes. What sources are you using? Like, where are you looking for this information? Because we can probably direct you to some validated sources.
I looked at the CAS review of the NHS England.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah,
It's been widely debunked, unfortunately, Zach.
Okay.
And it also didn't even advocate that young people shouldn't get this medical care, to be clear. That is what the NHS decided to interpret it to say, because they have a very actively transphobic government. So we can't really rely on heavily biased sources like the CAS review.
Okay. Because I think didn't the England court just define what a woman was, I think, recently?
Yeah, thanks, Joanne Rowling, for ruining every trans person's life in your country.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? We love that.
Yeah. And
so many people I care about are fucked now.
Yeah, and decisions of a government are not necessarily reflective of evidence-based practice, right? Because there's a lot of lobbying that happens.
Yeah,
and
you can look
especially
at
in this
our
case,
country right now.
A lot
like
of
RFK
lobbying
trying to get rid of fucking fluoridated water. Like, yeah, that's not based on evidence.
Like, I would recommend going to and you can go to multiple different countries. The issue is sometimes you might have paywalls to get into the actual studies, but look at the guidelines for the American Association of American College. I can't remember which one it is, of endocrinology. I know, like, there's the mix of the colleges and the academies, but for endocrinology, pediatric endocrinology, you can look at adolescent and child psychiatry. Those are all great ones to go with. The American Association or American Academy of Pediatrics, not the American College of. Do not go to the American College of Pediatrics. That is one college you should not go to. The American Academy of Pediatrics, and the other ones that I mentioned, they will have up-to-date guidelines, and they update them as new information comes out. And so that is the most up-to-date information that has the actual clinical guidelines of how diagnosis is made, how it is determined that someone meets criteria to undergo certain management, exactly how to administer said management, and all of that. It's very clearly laid out, very, very detailed. So if you and they cite all of their sources. So if you want some good evidence-based medicine, go to those organizations, because also they're not like they're part of like the whole like either state or like government related boards for medicine. So they are like separate from people actually practicing medicine. Like these are people that just review all of the stuff. They're the highest level experts in that field, and they're actually part of that specialty. So like if you're going to listen to people who know the best thing about pediatric endocrinology, people in government are not going to be great sources. However, an entire expert board of pediatric endocrinologists with all of their citations and detailed guidelines is going to be a way better source for you to look at.
Okay, I'll look at it. And then the England's definition for a woman, you guys disagree with it? Would that definition be appropriate for female instead of woman?
So I hesitate to get into this because we have already gone a long time in this call, and we do have another caller who
some
does
other
specifically
time.
want to talk
That's
about
fine.
that. But yeah, no, this has
Okay,
been very
yeah.
stimulating, Zach. I really appreciate you calling in. And feel free if you have any more questions. I hope that we have been informative. Sorry, things almost got spicy there for a second. We're all very,
Yeah.
Oh, you're
feeling pretty
good.
high
I'm not
energy
trying.
right now.
I'm not trying to create clickbait, so. But I
Well,
appreciate
sometimes
your
we
guys'
need
time. I
clickbait
learned a
for the
lot. So
channel, for the health of the channel.
yeah.
A little clickbait as a treat. But thank you so much, Zach. I appreciate you. I hope you call back in the future. Have a
Yeah.
great rest of your
For
day.
sure. Thanks.
All right. So let's take just a little breather. I think most of our calls today, as far as I can tell, are like relatively friendly. So, guys, if you have like an argument you want to have with us, as soon as one caller leaves, we immediately have room for another person until the lines are closed, which they're not yet. So now would be a great time to call in if you have a beef with us. Well, let's squash the beef, okay? But before we continue with our calls today, let us look at this week's announcements. So, first of all, if you have not yet hit the like button, that immediately helps the show. It always tells YouTube, yo, show this to more people. So if you like the show, that's a quick, easy, free way to support us. But as always, you can support us more directly. Get rid of slow mode by joining the members there or join the Patreon. We read your $5 super chats at the end of the show, and we also play a little game so you can vote with your super chat, hashtag Team Lux or hashtag Team Ben. The loser has to do a funny punishment challenge thing. I'm giving Jimmy plenty of time to figure that out because I don't know what challenge we're going to do this week. Additionally, don't forget we have so many other great shows on the line. So always double check your subscription settings if you want your notifications turned on, because we have a great lineup of stuff happening this week. On Sunday, of course, you've got your afternoon show with Matt and Durante Lamar, and you'll have your evening show with Forrest Valkai and John Gleason. Then Skeptalk on Monday with Paul Enns and potentially another guest. We've got Chewed Gum on Tuesday with Eve Was Framed. Wednesday's Hang Up, of course, Matt Dillahunty and Eve. And then next week's TACIS, you'll have Ben and Josie. I will not be here next week. So that's what's going on. Make sure you have your settings all tuned up appropriately for notifications on all that stuff. So with all that said, do you have any closing remarks you want to make about that last caller? Or are we ready to move on?
No, let's move on.
Awesome.
Sorry, I
all
keep
right.
dominating some calls.
It's-
These medical calls.
You're like, I'm ready to fight somebody today.
Oh, I am. Yeah.
That is okay. All right. So next caller in the queue is Giddy, he, him from Utah, who wants to ask about the sex spectrum and whether it's binary or bimodal. Giddy, welcome back to the line. How's it going?
Good so far. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, exactly what you said. So the more I learn about sex and sex characteristics, outside of gender, the more I find that the spectrum of sex looks a lot more binary than I thought, or at least has a bimodal distribution, and that it to the point that it's practically binary. And I just have some questions on that.
Sure. Yeah. What's your specific question?
Yeah. So how do I say this? So I was rewatching Forrest's Falkai's video on sex and sensibility, and it got to a part where he said that there's what's the word? There are conditions. I don't know, but there can be in the human body like male tissue and male cells next to female cells, and it's all just jumbled up and all that. And that language tripped me up because in every other case, the language seems to be a lot more nuanced. You know, like XX doesn't necessarily mean female, and but in that video, over and over again, it said like male tissue, female tissue, and that was just like way too binary for what I'm used to, and it just yeah. So and now using that framework of like now I don't know like how is biological sex, how is that determined in such a like binary way, and why doesn't that apply to other things like gametes and other things like that? So that's what I'm struggling with.
In Forrest's video, because I was one of the reviewers of that script, I think that was the way that he framed it like that. I'm sorry that there was some confusion. I think that was a colloquialism and trying to simplify it to where it makes sense. Because in general, like the whole thing is very nuanced, and some of the nuanced complexity, like that's always going to be there. However, every single time we mention a cell, we're not going to list out every single characteristic that specific cell has, because that would kind of waste everybody's time and it would muddy the water too much. So in shortening it to male cell or female cell, it's implying that, okay, the majority of the traits within this one cell are in alignment with what we would call female or male. And I think
Just
it was
kind
a
of a mouthful to
simplification.
say that every time.
Yeah. It was a simplification to make things flow and make it easier to understand. And I'm sorry that was a point of confusion, but I don't think he meant to communicate that it was completely binary, but just that it was a simplification.
Okay, well, okay, cool. I guess that's it. I mean, I still have some more questions, but like that resolved a ton of them. You're good at this.
Sure. We still have a couple minutes if you have one thing that you want to go over, or if you need some time to think on it and call back later, that's fine too.
Yeah.
No, I guess I can follow up with. So you said that it mostly aligns with what you'd call male and female. You know, so like how is that determined? Like that, because most likely that whole since going into this rabbit hole, like everyone says, like most likely it is this, or typically of this category. And sorry, let me catch my breath and my words. Okay. Okay, got it. So yeah, how? I guess to the question then, given that there's a lot of nuance and overlap and all that stuff, is it still, so it's not so binary, but is it still a bimodal distribution of these characteristics?
Yes. Yes, it is bimodal, where the majority of people have traits that all align on either side of that spectrum, but some people have characteristics that do not completely align with one or the other and are somewhere in the middle. So yes, it is bimodal.
And I want to add that like what we have done is we've created observational categories. Like that's where this all started, was like this cluster of traits tends to occur together, and this other cluster of traits tends to occur together. And on a surface level, you could just say, okay, that's female, that's male, boom, simple, done. Like that's it. But then we learn more and we look at it closer and we can see like, okay, well, we typically associate facial hair with males, but sometimes females have high levels of testosterone, relatively speaking, because of polycystic ovarian syndrome, and then they grow facial hair. So we acknowledge once we start digging in a little deeper that the simple categorization that we impulsively want to make simple categorizations. It's like a feature of the human brain. But we find that those are not as concrete or solid as we thought. And that's why, like, there is some amount of understandable frustration perhaps with the fact that when you become more scientifically literate, you do have to use a lot of hedging language, like typically this is associated with this, or commonly these traits are associated together. Because once you like actually start digging into the meat of it, all of these definitions have exceptions, and there's no way to draw clean lines around this to say like, okay, these people are all definitely female and these people are all definitely not. Just because there are so many different traits that we look at to create this idea of what even is sex. And some of these traits are related to each other and some of them aren't. So I understand the confusion.
Yeah.
Well, you just added to it. You hold on.
Oh no.
So what I'm hearing
But that's like what the
like,
bimodal
yes, it's a
distribution
bimodal.
is that we look at a lot of different traits. So you can't just say like, okay, I mean, even if we look at just one trait like chromosomes, you'll have like, okay, most people, okay, everybody has at least one X chromosome. You cannot live without one. But you might be like XXY. And like, so, you know, there's by bimodal, we mean like a large cluster near each of the two edges with a lot of fringe cases on the extreme ends and in the middle between those two things. So you have like, you know, sometimes people have like extreme female traits or they have like extremely high estrogen and they're super great at making babies or whatever, you know, and then, you know, all kinds of variation all the way through to like an extreme male traits based on what we have decided to describe as male and female.
Mm. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong here then. So it is bimodal, but it's also the categories are made up and the points don't matter kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That is that feels like oil and water, but I'll gosh, okay, cool. No, that will be in my brain for a bit, but I'll stew on it.
All right. Yeah. Let it rattle around for a little bit. If you have more questions, of course, we will be here.
I guess I do have one tiny follow-up question then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so seeing that it could be like a bimodal distribution, that it is a bimodal distribution, like how I'm wrestling because like I understand it's a bimodal distribution and all that, but the more I look into it, it also just the separation between those two clusters seems to like indicate a binary. Like at that point, it's practically a binary. Just
no, it's and the problem with the way of thinking about this and why it gets so messy is because the assumption from the beginning that people start with is that there is a binary. This would not be as difficult if we never assigned a binary in the first place. Like, for example, like with hair color, if you have a spectrum between super, super platinum blonde and even like gray and silver and stuff, if you have super light hair on one side and super dark hair on the other side, like we can categorize people as you have blonde hair, you have brown hair, you have black hair, but there's so much spectrum even within each of those colors. Like if someone says they have brown hair, you can't necessarily go over to like a cabinet full of hair dye and clearly match the color just based on the fact that someone said that their hair is brown, right? Like, and even there's so much wiggle room. Like my hair, depending on the lighting, can look more like a dirty blonde or like a light brown, and people might start an argument over it. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. If I want to like dye my hair as some other color or like try to match my hair color, I'm still going to have to find some combination of blonde and brown, like to get that right color. It's like if we looked at hair color and said everyone is either blonde or brunette and that's just it, we would be wrong. Because even though the majority of people are somewhere in those two categories, there's still a lot of wiggle room for like, but where do they fit? And there's also red hair. There's also silver hair. There's people outside of that. And it's like Lux was saying, it's our knee-jerk reaction to categorize people in such neat categories, but that's an oversimplification that really doesn't exist for most things in reality. And I know it kind of muddies the picture, but think of it less as the need to keep things in a category and just think of it as individual variation in traits. Like, because that's really what it is. Like, we don't have such strict separation for other traits that people have. Yet for gender and sex, this has been such a big issue because it has sociological implications. Like, it has impact on your role in society and all the bias that goes along with that. But if we had never assigned those categories to begin with and just said you have these traits or like these traits or whatever and saw them as individual traits, I don't think this would be as difficult to understand as it is now. I think there's a lot of bias coming in.
Okay, so here's how, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a bit of a nerd about this. So this seems like, this feels like it's not so much a point on a color line spectrum, but more like a point on a color wheel spectrum that you use on Photoshop and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay.
It's like you can find distinct colors within there, but there are plenty of points where you're like, I'm not sure if this is more blue or more green or what, and we can debate about it. But at the end of the day, it just is what it is.
Okay, in that case, okay, yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Giddy, very much for calling in. I hope that we helped kind of expand this for you a little bit. Of course, we'll be back in the future if you want to call again. But yeah, with all that said, I guess have a good rest of your day.
Yeah.
Thanks, I'll try.
Bye. That's how I answer. Anytime somebody in a customer service position is like, you have a good day, I'm like, I'll try, you too. Because like there's no guarantees for any of us. You're working a retail position. You're probably not having a good day. So I'm not going to tell you your business. Have a good day. Like, I hated that. I'm like, girl, don't tell me what to do when I was in retail.
Have a day. Have a day.
Yeah, exactly. Have a day. I used to work the overnights. So speaking of spectrums, it's like at what point in the day do you switch to saying have a good morning instead of like have a good night?
Yeah.
Because you start work at 10 p.m. and you leave at 6. So I just started saying have a good one because that could mean have a good morning, have a good night, or have a good life because I will never see you again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Because that's also very language dependent. Like a lot of languages have distinctions on like where they will use one or the other. It's interesting.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Well, so we don't have any oppositional callers. I encourage you guys in between calls, if we have people who have a disagreement, I would love to get at least one disagreeable caller today. But as far as currently, we're just going to continue taking them in order. Don't forget, hit the like button, join the Patreon, all that nonsense. Oh, again, $5 super chats. The loser has to defend a silly position. So get your $5 or more super chats with hashtag Team Lux or hashtag Team Ben. Don't forget the hashtags or we will not count them. The rules. You got to follow the rules.
Yep.
All right. So V, her from Canada, wants to talk about autistic people and medical transition. V, you're live on the line with Luxander and Ben. How's it going?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Fantastic. So sorry, this is not much of an oppositional call. I'm an autistic trans woman. I medically transitioned more than a decade ago in my early 20s. And I've talked to a bunch of autistic people, and I found that like notable levels of like gender alienation to outright gender dysphoria seems to be kind of a common experience among autistic people. And a bunch of them just kind of outgrew it. I want to be clear, I'm not opposed to the medical transitioning of minors. I've seen the APA's papers on like cold cognition, and I think they've pretty clearly demonstrated that a 14-year-old, if gone through having talks with medical doctors and psychologists, can very much grasp that over a period of time in most cases. But I've also seen a fair amount of evidence that there's a lot of autistic people who experience what does seem to fall in the category of clinically significant gender dysphoria, and then just kind of grow out of it in their late teens to the early 20s. And so I wanted to call in and talk to Dr. Ben. Like, I don't know what to do about this because there's not much research,
Yeah.
and I would love it if there's a trans mass person who wasn't named Kinnan McKinnon to do some research into this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any studies in front of me specifically about this, but like the process still stands of that they still need to go through the whole rigorous process, and it's still, yeah, like you're saying, if people have clinically significant gender dysphoria, then they should undergo management according to the guidelines. I think like it's kind of, I'd have to look at the actual statistics for how many specifically are meeting that clinically significant criteria and how many of those specifically regret, because based on the data that I've seen, like people are meeting that criteria are not people that are going to detransition later on, like because they fit into that whole population of people where with what that 98% something persistence rate. There could there be some more investigation into like how like gender diversity and like gender incongruence factors into that, like what are we calling criteria? Because like my thought, just as a neurodivergent individual, and being in circles of primarily neurodivergent individuals, there's less of an adherence to like there's less of a need to like enforce societal norms with regard to gender. And I think that's one of the overarching like points in this is like people may not be trans, but they may be gender diverse in ways that are not like that are causing distress, but not in ways that they would say that they're a binary trans person or even like any kind of trans person. And so my question is like, how much disconnect is there between what neurotypical people think is going on? Like, are these people actually trans, or are these people that are gender diverse that society is refusing to let be gender diverse? Or is this like, what other factors are there? I don't think that using like neurodivergence as a metric to then prevent people from getting transition is like, I think that's a horrible idea. And especially since like the statistics going around right now from RFK Jr. about like, what does he say, like 90 something percent of autistic people are like not at all self-sufficient, which is an absolute lie. Consent rules should not change for trans people. They for autistic people who are also trans, like they should not have to go through like extra hoops on that. Like their consent should be seen as equal consent to a neurotypical person. I'd have to look at some other data to see actually like if your statistics are accurate, and like if those statistics reflect like what were those criteria for, how did they determine those people were trans, and how did they determine like clinical distress at that point? Because like I have a lot of questions about this data. Do you happen to have the information you're citing here?
I'm friends with an autism researcher who's done over 300 semi-structured interviews with autistic people, and so his expertise is autism. He's definitely not making any cases of here's what we should do on autism and gender dysphoria.
So
but
it's
found like
so it's interview though. So it's an interview, and it's not. So these aren't like clinical studies. These are interviews.
So he has found like a ratio of 3-to-1 of trans people to will actually talk about having significant gender dysphoria or gender alienation, and that's I want to be very clear. I am not saying that we should say that autistic people should not be able to pursue medical transition, and I'm not saying that autistic people below the age of 18 shouldn't be able to. It's just it seems like there is and it also seems like there's something with autism that makes people much more likely to simply be trans. Like, I'm an autistic
Well,
trans
I
woman.
have questions
There are a
about
lot
this
of
study,
autistic
and
trans women.
I have a question about how, like, where this data is coming from, how it was obtained, what the criteria were, because if it's subjective, if it's people saying that they meet criteria, but it's not held to an objective standard, like, is this a standardized set of criteria, or is this just people saying on interview that they met criteria and that this is their regret? And so, like, I have a lot of questions about exactly what was performed, like how this data was obtained, what statistics were run on this, like how did they determine clinical like actual statistical significance of this? Like, it sounds like I have a lot of questions for any of it before I can make determinations about the validity and next steps.
Okay, no, so my thing is more of like, I feel like we should actually do some research into this. Not that we should necessarily do any changes currently to any
Yeah,
medical
I have no
treatment.
problem with doing more. I have no problem doing more research. But and yeah, there does seem to be like correlation between these things. But again, my question is, like, is this because of, like, is it related to an uptick of people? Like, is there an actual causal association with the genetic basis for any of these things? Or is this something that's sociological, related to the way neurotypical people see societal representations of gender and gender roles, gender categories, etc.? And, like, is it more related to adherence to a specific rule system, or is it related to identity and, like, medical management, or like genetics or something? Like, I just have questions along that, of where we're really discussing this issue.
Yeah, so in his research, especially in AFAB people, a bunch of it was running into you are trying to be shoved into a box that you by nature just don't fit into on social stuff. And he's very much not saying that autistic AFAB people shouldn't transition. Is there a way I could actually put you in touch with a researcher? You might find that interesting.
I don't have a lot of time or bandwidth to do any of this
Okay.
outside of the show. I would recommend getting the study and bringing the citation, and then you could call back and we could go over it and go over what it's saying, like go over, like, the details, because I just have too many questions. And I think the idea that specifically AFAB people are just trying to, like, stick it to the man, that's a trope that we see in a lot of transphobic media. And that's something I don't want to give a whole lot of credence to, like, as a causal thing, or as an actual statistically significant thing, unless, we can evaluate it, like, with the data. Because it sounds like maybe there's a correlation versus causation thing happening here. Because whether or not there is a correlation, the correlation itself doesn't mean much.
Yeah, most of the people he found that had not transitioned and seemed to have met or come close to the definition of gender dysphoria didn't even know what they were dealing with. For me, I had what was very any psychiatric professional who had talked to me and gone into why I was stressed, it would have been very obvious it was gender dysphoria, but I didn't have the language for it, and it was very clearly severe anatomical gender dysphoria, which is not something that is like something easily mistakable. But like, I didn't know
Right,
what
but
was
you just
going on.
mentioned people not meeting criteria, but, like, bordering criteria. So those are people that don't meet criteria. Right. So those people would
Okay.
not, if they do not meet criteria, but they're close, they would not qualify for care as a minor because they don't meet criteria.
So I'm talking about people who are
So
like
what's the issue?
severely gender nonconforming, have friends that are mostly of the opposite sex, have distress about, especially when they've had people about menstruation and stuff, and would rather be the opposite sex.
Yeah, so that's not, so again, going back to criteria for transition, if you don't meet criteria for transition, you're not going to be offered medical transition. So I don't see the problem that we're getting at here.
There are nuances, obviously, in the diagnostic process as well. Like, we understand that, like, getting your period sucks and that there is some kind of, like, body dysmorphia that can be experienced during that. And, like, of course, as a female, you experience the gendering of your body and you socially as, like, a type of violence. So it can be, like, hard to really identify with your womanhood, even if you are cisgender, because of those things. But, like, we have done enough research with this to, like, we can tell the difference between that and, like, persistent, insistent, consistent gender dysphoria. And it's like the present conversation is not really about opening up the possibilities for more people to transition on the fringe cases. Like, the broad conversation is about how do we limit this even more than it was limited before. So I think that we also kind of run into this issue when we're having this conversation about autistic people or about minors. You know, like, what is the purpose of this argument, and, like, what do we think we're going to accomplish as far as, like, and I don't mean we are arguing, I mean we are honing our arguments to try to determine what is most effective. So yeah, I wonder, like, what are we worried about? Are we worried about people transitioning when they shouldn't? Well, you're talking about a study of people who didn't transition. Are we worried about autistic people not being able to identify that they should transition because they have gender dysphoria? Because that's a whole different conversation. And it seems like your personal experience, V, kind of counteracts the concern that you have, where you're like, these people seem like they're gender dysphoric, but not really trans, and they don't do anything about it. And that's kind of not a problem. But also, as simultaneously, autistic people sometimes don't have the, like, awareness of their emotions and language to describe it well enough to know that they should transition. So it's, like, almost like a completely, like, two different issues that are, like, you can't have both of those at the same time. Like, you can't have autistic people don't really know that they're trans, and also autistic people have gender dysphoria that they grow out of. Like, I don't know, it just seems weird.
No, he's actually told people, it's like, what you were describing is pretty close to gender, and you should probably talk to someone about that.
Yeah, so, like, the question is, are these people growing out of, quote unquote, being gender dysphoric, or are they just high masking autistic people?
Yeah, that's something that I would like research on, because that's not something that is someone who's just an autism researcher is necessarily qualified for.
Yeah. And I do think it's an interesting question, but I also beg the question of, like, who does this serve? What purpose does this serve from a policy position to do this research? And you can't really get funding to satisfy your scientific curiosity. Most of the time, there has to be, like, a vested interest, like RFK Jr. specifically commissioning a report looking at regret and detransition as a way to justify denying people access to healthcare. So, like, that's the broader conversation that we're having.
All right. Okay. I think we've reached the end of the conversation. Thank you very much. I enjoyed talking to you. And I've been a big fan of the show for years, back when the hosts were Arden, Katie, and student Dr. Ben. So thank you for the conversation.
Nice. Thank you, V, very much for calling in. We look forward to talking to you again sometime if you want to chit chat some more. So hope you have a good rest of your day.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Okay.
I think there's a
we
call
keep
that,
like wanting to get spicy, and now we've got spicy callers waiting.
Yeah, we do. And one of them would be, I mean, they both look great for you to tackle. I know I've been talking a lot lately. But these
when
are
you are on,
specifically,
people are like, I have medical questions.
yes,
it's like,
but these spicy callers look very, very, very much like Lux calls. So
yes, very true. While we're taking that breather before we get to those, remember to hit the like button as per usual. Katie is fine. She's doing stuff on her own channel. She's just busy on Thursdays. We wish her the best. She's just busy all the time, and the time zones are kind of weird, imagine I'm like all the way on the West Coast. We start the show at noon my time, and it's like 7 or 8 p.m. for her. So it's kind of hard to get those things lined up. But yeah, let's. Does it matter to you which one, or do you just want to take them?
You can. Yeah, we can take them because I'm gonna let you take point on both of them. So
cool. All right. So we do have some people who've been waiting for a little while. Trust, we will get to you. We just do want to prioritize some of these oppositional callers. So right now we've got MJ with they them pronouns from Michigan wants to talk about pronouns, neopronouns, etc. Hello, MJ. You're live on the line. What's up?
Hi. So, yeah, my question was about those pronouns you were talking about. I know that you go by it. So,
That's true.
maybe you would be the perfect person to explain it to me. I understand that it's like a me thing that I just don't understand the language, and I want to understand it better. Why, like he, she, they are kind of what we generally for years have used in English, and
Mhm.
like when it comes to adults. And so, I kind of want to understand why we've gone as far as like creating Zer or like using it's more for adults, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, we can tackle this from a couple of different routes. I could point out that the Spivak pronouns were invented in 1890 was their first recorded appearance. So we in English have been playing with coming up with new pronouns for a long time. You know, they being plural, we've had times in English in the past where a plural and singular get merged. That's why we have the word you. So I think that for a while there was just like not an active adoption of they them as singular, and people were maybe trying to stick to some of those grammatical things of like they them is plural. So we have been inventing gender expansive or gender neutral singular pronouns for like 150 years. So it's not a new phenomenon. And I think like, asking like, what is the reason, as someone who uses they them pronouns, like you have some fundamental understanding of gender alienation with the binary that's been presented to us. I think they them to some people feels very impersonal because of its use as a gender neutral pronoun for a singular person of unknown gender. Like, oh, someone left their phone in the booth at the restaurant or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's impersonal, I think, in a way. And personally, for me, I also find that we are kind of building a cultural idea around what is a they. And I feel alienated from that in the same way that I feel alienated from the whole concept around she and the whole concept around he. So that's just a
Um,
personal note for me.
I
Did
think
you
that
want to
makes a
jump
lot of
in?
sense. I think that's what
Yeah.
I'm kind of missing or was until right now is
Mhm.
that's a great point that he, she, and they now have kind of become their own things in people's minds. That's kind of what I was missing, really, honestly.
Yeah. There's and some of it is kind of stereotypes, and we don't really want to feed into those, but like they exist. Theys are white and assigned female at birth, and they cut their hair short and they wear button-down shirts. Like we have this like image of what that looks like, and I don't identify with that at all. So um
Oh,
it just feels a little uncomfortable. I don't hate them. Like I'll use they them pronouns like the majority of the time, or I just let people use whatever and I don't care. But the most comfy thing is not always what we actually do in our day-to-day life.
yeah, don't I know it? So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to hold you too long. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry I wasn't super spicy.
That's okay. Well, thanks anyway. I appreciate it, MJ.
Of
Feel free to
course,
call back again in the future. We appreciate it.
absolutely, I do too. Thank you.
Later. Okay. Oh gosh. You know what? Let's take a minute to talk about the poll. I wanted to get through a few callers before we
all
talked
right.
about the poll. So let's take a little breather, talk
Yeah.
about the poll, and next we're gonna get to a caller whose name is Gohan, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, I've talked to him
So
before.
oh nice. Oh cool. That's fun.
Yeah.
I'm excited. As a fellow Dragon Ball fan, I'm excited to speak to the man himself. Anyway, so poll for this week has something to do with trans athletes again. I'm sorry for being repetitive. I was the one who suggested the poll idea for this week, and I was like, pick an idea out of a hat, guys. I don't know. Let's fucking talk about this fencer who doesn't want to compete against a trans woman. But it has been a little bit repetitive. Sorry. Hopefully next week we come up with something a little bit more original.
Yeah.
I'm trying to vamp to give Jimmy a second to pull it up on the screen because you're supposed to pull it up on the screen. There it is. Okay.
I thought you were saying
Do
you
you
didn't want to
think?
do it. So I didn't put it
No,
up.
sorry. I'm saying we should take a moment to talk about the poll because we've decided to do it like midway through the show instead of at the beginning.
Yeah.
We've changed so many things, Jimmy, since you've been gone. Anyway, do you think players should be disqualified for unsportsmanlike conduct if they refuse to compete with trans athletes? I think like 30% of you said no when I was looking at this on the post page earlier, but I think some of that might have been like, well, if you forfeit, then you can't be disqualified. But yes, this is about a fencer, or I mean, take it as you will. There was also a disc golf lady. These are both co-ed sports where men and women play together, fencing and disc golf. And these women, like cis women, are like, Lamau, I'm going to get all dressed and ready, and I'm going to stand here and take a knee. Like all this work has been done. So I wanted to specifically talk about the fencer because the fencing association did disqualify her, and that includes additional sanctions. I don't think that fencing is done tournament style, where like if you lose a round, you don't do any more that day. I think it's more like you have a certain set of competitions that you are supposed to have, like a certain number of bouts that you'll have through the day in a predetermined manner. So for her to forfeit one round, that does not mean that she is necessarily not competing for the rest of the day, except that they disqualified her because that is the procedure for them. For any reason, if you refuse to fence against an opponent who has been approved to fence, there's no good reason for you to take yourself out of that round, to recuse yourself. So I personally think, unsportsmanlike behavior to get all the way up there and ready and then be like, by the way, I'm not going to compete. Oh, and then by the way, also she got a $5,000 grant, a courage award. So it's like, did you do this for any reason other than money? Because guess what? She has fenced against and won against men in the same month that she did this taking a knee thing.
Yeah, and it is clearly performative, and to get that financial benefit. Because if realistically, number one, you know the rules of the tournament, you know that it's co-ed, you know that trans people are allowed to compete. So if you know those rules going in and you don't agree with that rule set, you don't have to sign up for the tournament. Like, you don't have to sign up for that competition. And I don't know exactly like if fencing has things more on a local level where you can have different kind of rule sets related to that. I don't know. But regardless, the rules were there. You knew what they were ahead of time. You could have backed out of the tournament long before. You could have not signed up for it. So you put yourself into that situation knowing that that was a possibility, that you could go up against a trans person. And then day of the tournament, like if let's say, you just didn't know the rules for whatever reason, you show up and then you find out that one of your matches is against a trans person, you could forfeit before you get to that round. You could say, hey, I don't want to do this one. I'm going to back out from this, and not make a big deal out of it. You could just say, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm out.
Because in advance in fencing who you're going up against. She could have said like a few days prior, I would prefer not to do this or something.
Exactly. And so if you're going to make it all the way there, show up onto, I don't know what, like they call a little mat stage. If you show up, like you go to your position, you're ready to go, and then you make this big spectacle out of not wanting to play by the rules that were set long before you showed up, that's on you. And I think that is a good reason to disqualify somebody, because the way that you made a spectacle of it, the way that you handled that is unsportsmanlike. And it's meant to shame the other person and not meant to just be like, I'm not comfortable doing this. Like, that was meant to shame the other person. And I agree that should be unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah. I saw at least one person in the comments of this post also say, like, go further. They should be permanently disbarred from participation, which I would not make that assertion necessarily. But I do think, like, a certain number of unsportsmanlike behaviors, like going on a bunch of talk shows afterward, I think that would qualify as like, oh, no, you are just humiliating, like you said, shaming, like humiliating a fellow player and rocketing her name now to national recognition in a time where it is physically unsafe to be trans in public. Like,
Yeah.
deeply unacceptable behavior, in my opinion.
Yep.
Ridiculous. All right. Well, now that we're riled up, let's take Gohan. Don't forget to get your super chat votes in. Hashtag Team Ben, hashtag Team Luxander, or Team Lux. Whichever one loses has to do a funny punishment thing. So we're going to talk to Gohan from Texas. Did not give us pronouns. Wants to talk about non-binary people. Gohan, hello. How are you doing today?
Good. How about you guys?
Splendid so far.
Doing all right. Yeah.
So I'm just going to apologize ahead of time. I have a little bit of COVID, so I've been a little bit slower energy today. So if I
Sure.
take a little while to respond, sorry.
We'll try to take it easy on you.
I appreciate it.
All right, well, lay it out for us. What did
Um,
you wanted to discuss a non-binary person that you know and your disagreement with non-binariness?
Yeah, but before I do that, if I could just talk to Dr. Ben really quick, just about the first call of the day.
Okay.
I just wanted to touch on this point. I think you said there was no medical procedure we don't give to people because they're still developing. Is that what you said, or did I misinterpret?
No,
that?
I said the fact that someone is not completely the fact that someone's brain is not fully developed is not a reason to deny medical care. That is evidence-based.
Okay, so you agree that because they're still developing, not just mentally, but physically they're still developing, we will deny them medical care, correct?
No, that's not what I said. No, I said
No.
the fact that they are developing is not a reason to deny medical care.
But I would say the fact that they are still physically developing, we do deny medical care based off of that. We don't give children a total knee replacement because they're still developing.
What?
No,
No,
but
that
that's-
totally happens to football players.
Yeah, that
Football
does.
players in high school get knee replacement surgeries.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
And
Yeah,
kids
but-
with developmental issues, if they have an abnormality in their bone that is they're not able to use their knee, or they have some congenital defect with their knee. Yeah, we have
No, that's
their
correct.
pediatric
That's correct.
orthopedics exist for a reason, and they do these procedures. So yeah,
Right.
the whole thing is
Right,
it's not as common, but the fact that's and again, so everything is taken within a medical context, but the reasons procedures are done or not done is not because they are still in development. The fact that they're developing is not the reason to deny evidence-based care. You still give whatever evidence-based care there is.
Okay. If I could respond to that really quick.
Go ahead.
So I didn't quite get finished. I agree with you that if they have some type of developmental problems, like maybe muscular dystrophy or something like that, then and if they're getting some type of joint pain from that, then yes, it's appropriate. Or if they are done growing, like if you're at a certain age in high school and your bones aren't going to grow anymore, then yes, that's fine. But if it's determined that you're still growing and you're developing normally, then you would not give a child who's still developing in bone growth a total knee replacement.
That's not necessarily true. And again, you mentioned that
Preventative
there are
care does exist for children.
well, and you even mentioned you
Yeah,
just said
but not-
excluding that you said excluding the congenital defects that I mentioned. My statement is
Yep.
not excluding that. You can't just exclude the exceptions you don't like to make your point more general.
No, but
In those
I'm just saying
cases
that
for
there are cases-
those congenital abnormalities, it is you. And my whole point again was evidence-based care, the most evidence-based medicine for those kids with the congenital issue may be a total knee replacement. Same thing with an adolescent who has, I don't know, complete cartilage degeneration or something. It may be the most evidence-based thing to do that for that person. So but that determination is based not sure, the stage of development helps determine what route of management you give them, but it is not a reason to deny care in general. It just like I
I'm
said, like the
sorry.
stage of development, like even for trans people, the stage of development does not prevent you from getting gender affirming care. It just determines where on the pathway you have access. Like it determines what you are eligible for along that continuum, but it is not a reason to deny care of that category.
So if I could just kind of try to fairly state both of our views, I would say that we both agree that there are certain circumstances where you would give an adolescent a knee replacement, but
yes,
at least in my view, I'm not sure if this is still your view or not, but there are definitely times you would not give an adolescent a knee replacement.
Gohan, are you a medical professional with a medical license? Do you practice medicine?
I'm a doctor of physical therapy.
Are you actually? Where did you go to school?
I went to UTMB.
Okay. Do you prescribe, like, do you prescribe surgery or medicine?
No, but I work with people who have had knee replacements, and I've worked with
So
muscular
again,
dystrophy
so
kids.
I grant the fact that you are that if you are a physical therapist, it is not within your scope of practice to prescribe medication or surgery, correct?
Correct.
So why should I give a fuck about your opinion versus my opinion? This isn't an opinion issue, right? Because I'm again, if I'm citing medical, like the evidence-based standard of care, and I'm saying, like, my statement is with regarding evidence-based medicine, right? If your opinion differs from evidence-based medicine, I don't give a shit what your opinion is. Your opinion is wrong, right?
No, I agree.
Your opinion is not evidence-based. Your opinion is not evidence-based. So why should I take your non-evidence-based opinion as equal authority to evidence-based medicine?
So I agree with you.
What research do you have? What research do you have? What evidence do you have? Like, because keep in mind, if you are a doctor of physical therapy, you know that there's a threshold of, like, there's a burden of proof you have to meet in order to overturn medical consensus, right? So if your opinion is equal to or better than the current standard of care, you have to bring that data, give me your citations, give me your data, and we can talk. But you can't just assert that your opinion is equal to or better than medical consensus just because you have a differing opinion. And I don't have to grant you that level of authority unless you bring data.
I think it's fair.
Yeah. Okay. Can we get to the meat of your actual call then? Because I was under the assumption we're talking about non-binary issues, and I didn't want to have to argue this with you. But you can call a different time. We can argue medical consensus.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I think that's fair. And yeah, I agree. If I was Joe Schmo down the street, it wouldn't matter what my license is, just as long as I can read scientific data. But yes, maybe that's a topic for discussion another time.
Yeah, well, and it doesn't matter if you can read it. Yeah, but yeah, and whether or not you can read it is different from whether, like, disagreeing with the medical consensus. Because even if you can read a study, like, that doesn't mean that you can, like, assert that you know more than evidence-based medicine and that your opinion should just be accepted. So anyway,
that's correct. I was just trying to say my license doesn't bring weight to my argument, is what I was trying to say.
Okay.
But yes, I'll jump into more of what I was calling about.
Yeah.
I have a brother. I've called on the show a couple of times. I've talked to Matt and Forrest, and I think her name was Dr. Steven about it. Or maybe Dr. Stephanie.
What a wonderful opportunity to speak to an actual non-binary person about non-binary issues. I'm very excited we get to have this opportunity, Gohan.
Yeah, me too. And also, I heard you are a big DBZ fan.
I am perhaps less of a big DBZ fan, but, like, definitely a DBZ fan. Vegeta is my favorite. I love him so much.
I'll take it. And you know what? Vegeta's been growing on me a little bit, but I mean, my guess from the name, my favorite is Gohan. But,
totally. Classic.
So, yes, I was saying we have some me and my brother, we have some disagreements on what it means to be non-binary, and mostly the disagreement is for me on the whole basis of gender. I don't believe in gender.
Fascinating.
I think because of that, it's impossible for me to accept any idea of trans or non-binary or cis.
Okay. Well, I guess a question I would have is like, how do you define gender? Because I don't know if you're familiar with like, German has so many different unique words for the concept of economics. Like we use the word economics to mean like many different things, but there's a sentence you could translate from German to English that would functionally just be like economics, 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 economics. And that's kind of how we run into this problem with gender too, is like sometimes people are referring to the expected roles that you would participate in. Some people are referring to like the specific identity that you have inside your brain. So I'm curious what it is specifically that you mean when you say that you don't think gender exists.
Sure. So I've talked to my brother a lot until about like a little bit before Trump was elected or around then. We stopped talking. But what my brother would say is it's a combination of like how you identify and then what kind of roles you fit into in society.
Sure. Do you don't agree with that? Like how would you, I want to know like what you would describe as gender, the thing that you don't think exists? Or like
So then
what
my
word, like
follow-up
what utility
question.
do we have from the word gender? Because clearly we use it a lot,
Well, so I actually don't use the word gender at all. And my follow-up question to my brother was, if I'm born male and I adopt all the social norms of a female, but I identify as a male, then what am I? And he
I mean,
told
I
me
know
that
a
it
couple
is
examples of people like
that
that.
I'm a male then. Yeah, so I'm not trying to just make up random stuff. Like, I'm sure this is a possibility. And he said I would be male. So then to me, what society says has nothing to do with it. It's just how you identify. And if there's nothing to base what you identify on other than what you identify, it just sounds like a circular argument that doesn't have any real traction in reality.
I mean, it clearly people's internal sense of their gender identity has an impact on reality. Like it compels people to kill themselves. It compels people to undergo radical surgeries. It compels people to empty out their savings to pay for those corrective surgeries. So it clearly does have a very serious material impact. So
Sure, it has
it's
a
not
impact on
immaterial.
reality. Like I would say, this is probably y'all's view that my religious beliefs have an impact on reality, but I don't have a basis for my religious beliefs. I don't feel like
Yeah.
that's true, but I would say the same in reverse for gender. That yes, your belief in gender will have an impact on reality, but I don't think there's
Well,
any
so these are different
basis
claims,
for
Gohan.
it.
I want to jump in here because those are different claims. When you say I believe in God, a benevolent God, or like an all-powerful God, okay, like well, that's like a thing that we should be able to see in the world. Like we should be able to. There should be a measurable impact on the world. If I
Yeah.
make a claim that I experience distress when I am as a non-binary person, like your sibling, I experience distress when if my body is normatively male or female, or if I'm in a social role that is normatively male or female. For me personally, I'm deep in my gender journey and I don't have as much dysphoria as I used to. But let's say, for the sake of example, um, so me saying, okay, I see there's a social role of woman and I don't belong to that social role. Like there is no version of that I feel that I belong to as a category. Or if I have severe physical dysphoria, where it's like I was born with a penis and I really, really, really need it gone because it causes me daily anxiety and distress. I'm not making a huge claim about the universe, about like fundamental truths about like gravity and stuff like that. I'm saying like my personal experience is I grew up around these categorizations. I understand them. I understand myself well enough to be able to place myself within them, or to say I reject that entirely. So they're fundamentally different claims. the kind of evidence that we would need to substantiate gender identity. Like, so I'm just going to focus in on that one specific trait, gender identity, to kind of cut down on some of the confusion here. The evidence of that claim is like a measurable amount of distress before transition and a measurable improvement in quality of life after transition. And we have overwhelming evidence that that is the case. So gender dysphoria seems to be some kind of physical problem that is solved with physical intervention. So I don't know how you can reject that and say that that's insufficient evidence, because I'm not saying like there's no difference between males or females. I'm not saying that like, I'm not saying that people can spontaneously grow testicles and be able to impregnate someone. Like I am very much grappling with the reality of the, limitations of biology and technology. So yeah, I just don't think those claims are comparable.
No, I agree. The claims between religion and gender are not like the same claim. I was just using it as a comparison. But actually, I am going to dip my toe back into it, though. But the Jews, before any idea of germ theory was around, the Jews used to wash their hands before meals. And they would do that for spiritual reasons. They wouldn't do that really to keep germs away. Because, germ theory wasn't around. So they would wash their hands. They wouldn't really know why it would work, but they knew it would work. So correlation doesn't always equal causation. Yes, washing your hands was safer for them, but not because of spiritual reasons, but because, yes, it kept germs away. So you bringing up this stat that people have dysphoria before surgery and then after surgery they have less dysphoria. You can't just say 1 + 1 = 2 because of that. Yes, there's a correlation, and that's great.
Well, but like if you identify before, you're like, okay, it's my penis. I hate it. It's terrible. It's in the way all the time. It makes me feel like I want to throw up every time I look at it. And then you get it removed. That is directly solving the problem. It's not like an abstraction, like, oh, maybe you were actually upset about something else and you just happen to feel better after surgery, which often causes people to be super depressed for 6 months because of anesthesia. But like, you're making all kinds of nonsensical comparisons that makes it really hard to discuss the actual thing that we're discussing.
Yeah, and the fact that go on, and there's a distinct difference in the level of data and the level of evidence we have for gender affirming care as opposed to people washing their hands back in the Bronze Age. They didn't have data back then. So yeah, they couldn't have studied that back then. We studied it more recently, and we understand that washing your hands does have a causal relationship to removing germs. And yeah, we know that. They didn't know that back then. But the fact that it was a correlation causation mismatch maybe back in the Bronze Age, we can't even say that because there wasn't any supposed data back then. But we do have a causal relationship for that now. And we have the data, we have the ability to study this, and we have studied this, and we continue to study it, and the data keeps repeating itself. Like the results keep repeating themselves with repeated study. So you can make this comparison that doesn't hold any water because you're claiming that the level of evidence has not been reached yet. We're in a time and place, like on this timeline, where that evidence has been obtained and that burden has been met. So don't be just giving this logical this mental gymnastics to say that these are the same situation, because one is significantly more evidence than the other one.
So I think you're right that there was no the Jews were probably not keeping stats on percent of people who were healthier after they washed their hands or not, because their idea wasn't even for that. Their idea was more of a spiritual benefit than a physical benefit or a health benefit. But my point is that yes, it could kind of be a correlation, but we don't really know what's causing that correlation. And
think about the utility of this discussion. Okay, so let's go back to your analogy. Okay, let's say, like, if we look back and we say, okay, the Bronze Age Hebrews washed their hands for spiritual reasons, and it had this unintended, like, it had a good outcome that was different than what we expected. Should we look back and say they shouldn't have washed their hands because it wasn't? No. It didn't do specifically what they were saying it did, or should they still have? Not at all. Or was the outcome still, like, was the outcome good enough to where, regardless of the intent, it was still a good action to do?
No, and I have the same stance with surgery as well. If surgery makes you happier in the end, go for it. I don't care.
So
but that
data. We have enough data that suggests that there are overwhelmingly positive outcomes with gender-affirming care. So the recommendation going forward should still be to give the gender-affirming care.
Go for it.
Okay.
But that doesn't prove anything about what gender is. So, like, if my brother went and had it, like,
does it matter at that point? Does it?
Well, of course.
Does it actually matter, or are you just mentally masturbating to the thought of overly defining things and feeling like you're right?
Trying to figure out what gender is.
Does your ability to be right about categorizing somebody's gender and getting to say, haha, I don't want to use your pronouns, is that satisfaction worth somebody else's life and somebody else's safety?
Are being right about gender or believing that gender exists? Those are two different things. And right now, I'm not in the belief that gender exists.
We've already established, and you are willing to agree that people should be able to have access to gender-affirming care. So, yes. Does this just, if the outcome is still that people should have access to this, and people should be able to be treated with dignity,
yeah, why not?
Then why do you need to push back on all this? There's some reason why this matters enough for you to keep to call in. And we've talked with you before on this. Why do you care so much that you're going to call into a show to disagree with people on this?
It's my brother. He hasn't talked to me in so long, and I need to figure out.
And you're insisting on disagreeing with this person. Do you care? Do you actually care about this relationship, or do you care about being right and sticking it to your sibling? Because if you are saying that you actually care, because if you are saying that you actually care about your relationship and that's what matters, your actions in having this debate right now contradicts that goal. This is not evidence of that. If you genuinely cared about your sibling, the response would not be trying to stick it to them. The response would be, how can I support this person? And those are totally different discussions. Sorry for butting in, but I had to point that out.
You're good. Hey, I understand this can get heated, so you're fine. But I was watching the Hang Up yesterday. I think there was somebody who called in. His name was either Dimitri or DeAndre. I don't really remember. But he was talking about how he's like a closeted atheist, and he feels like he is lying to his family whenever he says he's a Christian, and he feels like that's actually pro-separation between him and his family. And yeah, it's like the same thing with me. If I just go along with it, go through the motions, I know I'd be lying to my brother. And like,
it's really interesting, and I want to butt in here because I obviously have more like empathy for your sibling in this situation. The atheist is in a marginalized position in the family of Christians. The non-binary person is the marginalized person in the family of people who are not accepting that. So like your sibling is the one who is right now like, I'm trying to get my family to understand and accept me, and they are not interested in understanding and accepting me. Like the tone that you've taken in this call does not indicate to me that what you are trying to do is heal and reconnect with your sibling. What you're trying to do is reinforce your position or figure out how to convince your sibling that gender isn't real. Like it does not sound to me like you are interested in understanding what's going on with them or that you're interested in respecting them. Because frankly, you don't have to understand what's happening with them. You can still respect them by using the name and pronouns that they prefer and not actively misgendering them. Even if you feel dishonest, at the end of the day, like your feelings about whether gender is real and like whether someone's internal sense of themselves is accurate should not be in the way of you loving and respecting that person. And that is the problem, is that you don't love and respect your sibling enough to actually work through these issues and listen and understand what they're saying. You listen to argue.
So this is kind of the same thing that both Matt and Forrest have been saying, but you started off a little bit differently a second ago. You said that I should be trying to understand.
Yeah. What I mean by that, and I want to be clear what I mean by that, when someone is telling you about their subjective experience, they are the expert on their subjective experience. If they say, I feel deeply uncomfortable being called male, then the thing to do is to say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. How can we accommodate that? That's a loving response. Not, I'm going to go hone my arguments by calling somebody else. And I'm going to say, I'm so upset that my sibling won't talk to me, but I'm not interested in understanding what they're going through.
Of course I'm interested. That's why I'm talking about it. If I was just trying to win an argument, I mean, he's not talking to me, so then I will win the argument. But if I'm trying to reconnect with him, I have to understand.
Yeah, and this is,
I can't just
this is the other person setting healthy boundaries. This is somebody setting healthy boundaries and saying, I do not feel respected in this relationship. I need to take a break and cut ties and not put myself in a situation that is going to lead me to be disrespected. I honestly don't give a shit at this point. No, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if you feel like you want to reconnect with this person when you are not making steps to reconnect with them. If they are setting up, and even so, even if you do all the right things, this person does not owe you jack shit. They are their own independent person, and they can say, I do not want a relationship with my family. And they are totally allowed to do that. They are allowed to set that boundary. They are allowed that privacy. And if that was related to you disrespecting them, tough shit. Tough shit. That is on you. They do not owe you that. They do not owe you that. And the thing is, you can have whatever opinions you want. You can be as disrespectful as you want. Like, no one can take away your right to be an asshole. You can do that. But the other person has absolute rights to say, I don't want any part of this. I am setting a boundary here. And so your choice, you have a choice in this matter. No, so you have a choice. You don't get to whine about it. You have a choice. You can either continue to have the opinions you do, continue to misgender them, and not call them by their preferred name, and not have that relationship back, or you can try to be respectful, try to put yourself in the other person's shoes, try to respect them, and maybe, and again, not a guarantee, because they don't have to come back to this relationship, but maybe they'd be willing to give you a chance. Okay? Like, they do not owe you anything. No other person on this planet owes you anything. Okay? And you need to understand that.
No, that's fair. That's fair that he doesn't owe me anything. I understand that, but my question is, it seems like you guys are saying it would be the more respectful thing just to fake it and lie to him instead of trying to understand it. Like, my need to understand isn't as high as making him feel comfortable, is what you guys.
So the thing is, what I would advocate for, so those, you don't need to be in, there doesn't need to be a conflict of like either understanding or respecting. It's, if you start by saying, I don't understand this, but I love you and I want to try to work through this. That's you saying, I love you. That's you saying, I'm going to try. And that means I'm open to being corrected about things. Like, and like, honestly, I wonder if it's like, I don't know, like, you know, if you maybe just don't have a grasp of what it would feel like to have a strong internal sense of gender. Like, you know, we could go down the line of like, if you were a brain in a jar, like if for some reason your whole body got destroyed, like Judge Dredd style or whatever, and like they put you in a machine, like, would you still identify as a man? like, would you still recognize that that is a part of who you are as a human person? Or are you just strictly like, well, I guess I identify as a genderless robot now?
We just make a DBZ reference and say maybe Android 19.
Sure. Take it however you want to take it. Like, my point is, if you are detached from your body and you are put in a formless jar or just like a generic droid body that has no gendered features, does your sense of self cease to exist? Like, are you like, I'm no longer a man? Because maybe you have just a much more flexible sense of gender than other people do. A lot of people would feel very strongly that, like, if their penis got crushed in a horrific accident tomorrow, they would still identify as a man and they would seek reconstructive surgery because their identity as a man is important to them. You can still live a successful life without a penis, but it's important to people enough that an entire field of surgery was developed specifically to fix cis men's broken penises, which trans men benefit from. So, like, I think that you don't, think that you don't have an internal sense of gender for yourself because you have never been challenged in the way that a trans person is challenged by the disconnect between those two things.
So if I could say two things to that really quick, I would say one, like if my brain is taken into somewhere else, but I still have the knowledge, like what my chromosomes are, then like I would say I'm still a man physically because of my chromosomes.
If you found out,
if I don't,
if you found out, I have a question. I want to interject on here because if you found out tomorrow that you have XX chromosomes and your SRY just got transferred onto the X chromosome, would you start identifying as a female?
Yeah.
Oh, you would. You would be like, I'm going to get my penis cut off. I'm going to transition because of my XX chromosomes. I need to make sure I'm in full congruence.
I'd say my sex is female, and I still don't believe in anything called gender. I'd say yes.
So you would say I'm a woman, because if you think female and woman are the same thing, then you would have to say my name is Gohan. I'm a woman.
Correct.
Okay, I think that you maybe just
I still want to believe
fundamentally
what gender is. I'm still not sure what gender is. I would say yes. I'm a female. I'm a woman. If it turned out my chromosomes are XX.
But you would get a vagina and start wearing a bra. Like, would you go through all of that to make sure everything is in alignment?
Why would I need to do that? Like my sex isn't dependent on any social.
Are you going to
structure.
correct people? Here's my question. Are you going to correct people if they say, hey man, what's up? Are you going to say, actually, I'm a female. I'm a woman, actually? Is that what you're going to do?
No, I don't think that'd be necessary. I'd only correct on like important things like when I go to the doctor or something like that, like where my sex actually matters, you know.
But your doctor's not treating you based on your chromosomes. But so then are you? So if you go to the doctor, are you going to be asking for a PAP and all this stuff?
Control?
Because they're just going to assume that you're a woman because of your chromosomes and your gender marker. Like, it's not going to be accurate though for your care, right? Because your anatomy is going to differ from your chromosomes, so you're going to need exceptions.
Are we assuming I still have the same pretty much anatomy now?
You have the same anatomy that you do now, but your chromosomes are XX.
Because that happens all the time.
So what's your question?
Are you going to then ask? He's basically asking, like, if you go to the doctor and you have XX chromosomes, are you then going to say, I need a pap smear, I need a pelvic exam, I need birth control? Or are you going to say, I'm like phenotypically male, I have a penis, I need a vasectomy? Like, the chromosomes are such a small part of what matters in terms of your sex is the point that I'm driving toward. And like that one characteristic doesn't say anything about the rest of you. That like your existence as a man is completely detached from your chromosomes, because almost nobody knows their chromosomes. I don't know my chromosomes. I could be intersex and I wouldn't know. I want to look at another example really quick, and then we have a few more callers who've been waiting for a long time. I floated this example recently. No, I'm not going to let you respond because I genuinely think that you're very disingenuous. Because
my questions are the same as Lux's questions.
Yeah, we're driving toward the same point here. Yeah. If a child is born with a penis and a vulva, they are purely intersex, like perfect intersex. You can, like at birth, you can tell. Do we think we should raise that child to be non-binary and say you're not allowed to identify as a boy or a girl?
Yeah, if it's like depending on what the chromosomes is, if there's a Y chromosome in there, it's technically a male. If there's no Y chromosome, it's going to be a female, or it is a female.
So you think that you're going to just like impose an identity on that child because of their chromosomes? Like if you found out that your baby who was born with a penis had XX chromosomes, would you make that kid grow out their hair long and like act like a girl? Would you police that child the same way that you would police a child that didn't have that chromosomal anomaly? Like, oh no, that's a boy's toy, you can't play with that. Or oh no, that's a girl's toy, you can't play with that. Would you like force your child to identify as something other than what they have? So let's say the child with a penis who has XX chromosomes. Are you going to say you're a girl, you're not allowed to play sports?
You have to use the girls' bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, why? Like, I don't think there's any such thing as like, yeah, girls can't play sports, or no, that's a boy's toy.
But what
that's a
bathroom
girl's
does that
toy.
kid use? What bathroom
Yeah,
does
what
that
bathroom?
child use?
Sorry?
What bathroom does the child use? Are you going to say, okay, we're in public, my child has a penis, but they have XX chromosomes. Am I going to say you have to go into the girls' bathroom? Is that what you would do?
Well, it
Because that's
depends,
kind of what would require you would be required to do that to be ideologically consistent.
Yeah, so depending on their age, if they're young enough, right now, my girl's 4, she still comes to the bathroom with me because I don't trust anyone else. But after that, if it's XX, I don't care what you look like, you're going into females. If you have a Y in there, you're
So
going
you
into
think
males.
that someone should use the woman's bathroom if they have a penis just because they have XX
Yeah,
chromosomes? You think men should use women's bathrooms just because they have penises?
I don't care
Or
what's
just
in
because they have
between your
XX
pants. I
chromosomes?
care what your chromosomes are.
Okay, so I think that you are a liar, and I'm done with this call. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I call bullshit.
Yeah. Just absolutely full of it. Like, how are you going to sit here and try to tell me you think like this is exactly the kind of person who thinks like men shouldn't be in women's bathrooms? If he had called with a different set of complaints, I am absolutely certain that he would have been like, men shouldn't play on women's sports, while simultaneously saying like people with XX chromosomes are female no matter what. Like, you're either a liar or you're a fucking moron, and either way, I'm tired of it.
I think I've had bathroom debates with Gohan before in the past.
Hilarious.
So I should go back and find that because I bet it's
let's see.
Opposite. I'm pretty sure it's opposite to what happened. I'm pretty sure that I won't misspeak. But I should go find it.
It'll be an interesting point of fact to see what the difference is between those conversations. So anyway, thank you to our remaining callers for being so patient. We will get through those calls now. Just really briefly, again, don't forget to hit the like button. It's free. Don't forget to hit the $5 super chats with your hashtag Team Ben or hashtag Team Lux votes. The loser has to do a silly thing at the end of the show. And with all that said, I guess let's just kind of keep things moving here. Adrian, him from Sweden, wants to talk about avoiding internalized transphobia and how to support American trans people. Hello, Adrian. You're live on the line. What's up?
Hello. Yeah. So I have two separate questions. First one, how to not internalize transphobia in the midst of this propaganda shitstorm that we're in. And it's a sliding scale. There may not be that many Blair Whites in the world, but like, how do you avoid sliding down that path?
I mean, yeah, I guess big question. I mean, I guess I don't personally struggle with this too much. Perhaps a very interesting example to look at would be Ash Hardell, who stepped away from content creation a few years ago because people kept accusing them of like having Peter Pan syndrome or like all kinds of just vile things. And they were hearing that so much that they did start to internalize it. And they've kind of spoken publicly about that journey, so that might just be a little bit more of like a direct example, helpful reference to make. Because I just, maybe this is the autism, but like I have an extremely strong sense of self. And I am never worried about internalizing transphobia because I think trans people are fucking rad. I think we're so cool. I love every trans person I know, even the ones I hate. So yeah, I don't know, Ben, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I am guilty occasionally of internalized transphobia, but it's not because I have anything against trans people. Obviously, it's more that I just at baseline have low self-esteem, and so it's a reflection of all of my other low self-esteem that I'm like, obviously anything that I do is garbage. But that's a result of my own trauma, and going to medical school does not help with that. It makes everything a lot worse. And so I just have chronic imposter syndrome. Really the best way to handle that is, I mean, like, something on your own is like, are you directing this thing towards yourself, or are you directing it at the trans community in general? Because a lot of the things that I say about myself, I would not ever say about anyone I know. I would not say that about my friends who are trans. I'd not say that about celebrities who are trans. I would not say that about anybody else. It's purely against myself. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't actually believe this thing, because I would never tell my friends this. I would never think this about my friends. And so that's kind of a way to check yourself on that, is like, who is directly the target of this? And if it's not a universal thing, it's probably not a valid argument. It's probably not something that like relates to all trans people, and might just be some individual bias or something more contextual. Another thing, if it gets like severe, where if it is impacting your self-esteem, impacting your relationships and all that, like, please, if you have access, please go to a therapist. Like, please talk through all that stuff, because if it is something related to your own self-esteem, you should not be thinking that about yourself, and it might be indicative of like depression, anxiety, something like that. That is something that needs to be addressed. Or even if you just, are having some burnout, having like some compassion fatigue, all that stuff, it just might be some time to take care of yourself a little bit and build yourself up a little bit more. So that's kind of my recommendations based on what you've said.
Yeah, thanks. So for me, I'm a trans man, and lately it has been showing up kind of as a what's the word? Like a thought that you don't have any control over. I don't remember the specific term, but it's not a position I have. It's not something I would ever do or act on, and it's like I fully do not have the position of being transphobic and holding those views. But intrusive thought was the
yeah. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. But that has been happening probably because I have a hard time checking out of the onslaught of the propaganda, because I'm like, part of me wants to stay updated and like risk assess, especially for the different people that are in my life. Primarily my partner, who is an American, still lives there, and is a trans woman, which is the second point I want to talk about. And it's just like, I don't know how to take care of myself when things are ramping up the way that they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of it is like, you have to start acknowledging that what we're doing when we watch the news like this is we are grasping for a sense of control. Like, oh, if I just know what's happening. And that's kind of what risk assessment is. It's like, oh, well, if this is happening, then I will do this. If this is happening, then I will do that. I made my plans on kind of a whatever happens is beyond my control. My plan hasn't changed. Like, I moved to the West Coast. It still feels scary and dangerous. Like, it still feels like the federal government could do some oversight or like overstepping their jurisdiction bullshit. Like, I'm still scared, but I'm also like stubborn and determined to like hunker down here and resist from a blue state. So I don't really need to be looking at this news every day, but I still have a hard time as well. Like, I don't want to say like, oh, it's easy to just stop, but it is good to acknowledge like, I don't have any actual control over the situation, and you kind of have to accept that you don't have control and maybe just guess that the worst is going to happen and then make your plans based on that. So it's like, if you want to try to help your girlfriend get out of the country, maybe just do that regardless of what's going to happen in the next 5 years. You can always come back later if things get better or something. Like, I know things are pretty decent in Sweden. Obviously, you still have like difficulties with getting healthcare because of the national healthcare system, and like there are certain requirements that make it hard for non-binary people. I totally get it. But yeah, just like trying to internalize that you only have so much control, and then going, okay, what can I do? Just assuming that everything continues getting worse, because it seems like it is going to continue getting worse. Like, that's how I manage my anxiety, is by having a plan of action that I'm going to commit to kind of regardless of the outcomes. But that's, maybe that's my false sense of control, is thinking that the course of action I have decided is actually going to work out. I don't know. I'm open to the idea that I'm wrong on the correct method of handling this, but that's what I've been trying to do.
Should I respond or like what?
Ben, that was an opportunity for you to respond if you had anything to say to that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. First of all, I'm really glad that you could move to a safer state.
It was an enormous undertaking, and I only was able to do it because the community helped me. So big time. Like, it's not an option for everyone.
Yeah. As for helping my partner, it would be very difficult for her to, like, it is difficult for me to help her get here because I don't have a job, and like, I'm disabled. I will not be able to have a stable income, which means that I can't just get married to her and tell the state that, hey, she's my partner, she will live with me now, woo, thanks. Because I need to have a stable income for that. And she, there's a bunch of red tape, and she might be able to move here if she goes here to study, but then there's the issue of money, and it's a whole thing. Like, she and I have talked about this at length multiple times. And there is also sadly a very, very, very slim chance for her to be able to seek asylum here, because 97% of asylum seekers who come to Sweden on the basis of being persecuted as queer people get denied. It is.
Wow.
And it's also done on illegal grounds. Like, it is against national, European, and international law. And it's just been getting worse with years. Like, the report before that, which was done like 3 years, and the last one was done like 1 year. The one 3 years ago was at 94%. So it has gotten higher, and like, I don't fucking know what to do, and it is severely impacting my ability to be a good partner, because I'm like, she's visiting me in a month because I'm getting top surgery, and she's gonna take care of me and have some vacation. And what the fuck do I do if she is disappeared when she tries to re-enter the country? Like, it is stressful.
I mean, I know that there are some processes in my country that are like, they don't initiate until you are here. So like, asylum seekers, like, one of the things that you have to do is be physically present in the United States, which is one of the arguments that you get in with people who are against immigration. Like, you literally can't even apply for asylum in the United States until you are physically here, or at least that's one of the processes by which we do this. So, I mean, honestly, like, the advice that I would give is I would try to figure out, like, once you are approved to visit a different country, can you then apply for a work visa? And just be like, I just want to stay here for 2 years. I'm going to apply for a 2-year visa and then work on your permanent residency. That's how it works when you move to Canada. Like, that's what I've looked into because that's the country that's most immediately available to me. It's like you go there, you have like a temporary, you're allowed to be there, then you get the, permission to work there, and then permanent residency after 3 years. You can apply for citizenship later. That's what I would recommend is like, if she not disabled, then, finding some way to be like, hey, now that I'm here, by the way, I am I'm still audible. Okay.
Sometimes. You cut out a lot, like the last 5 seconds.
Sorry,
I couldn't hear you.
I was done. I was mostly done. Basically, getting in the country and being like, pretty please, I will work here and pay taxes forever.
Yeah. Sadly, it doesn't work the same way here. Like if you are, if you live outside the European Union, you have to have a signed job offer before you come here and apply for a work visa. And then there's like I've looked it up, and it's more complicated than it probably needs to be, but it's
yeah.
I
mean, honestly, the answer to this question is talk to an immigration lawyer. Like that, that's going to be the best way to get the answers on this, because there has to be some mechanism, even if it's like not going to work out in Sweden. Like there's got to be.
Yeah, there are other
even
countries
if there's a
that
related
are,
country. Yeah, still in the EU.
Yeah, there are other countries that within the EU that are easier for Americans to move to, at least like for longer term stays. So you just might have to be a little creative about it.
I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I'm saying it's doable, and you might have to be a little creative. But like, just try not to like lose the hope that there is a way to make it work, because there is almost certainly a way to make it work.
Yeah, I know, but I really needed to be reminded of that. So thank you. I do feel a little bit more at ease now just talking to you. So I'm very, very grateful. Any more thoughts, or do you want to move on to the next caller?
I mean, I think that's kind of the limit of the advice that we're able to give, since we're not experts in immigration. But yeah, like I would just say, try to get in touch with an immigration lawyer. If there's somebody that does pro bono services, I'm certain that there are queer organizations that are working specifically on this issue. I'm sure that there are queer organizations that are lobbying for their countries to start accepting asylum seekers, especially because the UK has just gone off the deep end. You're going to get plenty of people who are like, I would like to be part of the EU again, please. Please let me in, Germany and France. So you just keep your eye open and get in touch with an immigration lawyer and see, what options there are, even within the EU generally. So I think that's all I got for today.
Thank you. And yeah, there is an organization in Sweden as well, working for queer asylum seekers. But thank you.
Reach out to them.
Take care. What?
Go ahead and reach out to them for sure. See if they can refer you to anybody. So, but yeah, thank you, Adrian. It's a hard situation, and I don't want to minimize that it's difficult by being like, so solution oriented. I know I tend to be very solution oriented like that, but I just want to acknowledge it is very shitty. Give yourself permission to take a little bit of a break, especially if you're about to like start really working on trying to find solutions to this problem. You will need appropriate amounts of rest. So I'm giving everyone permission to turn off your social media tomorrow. Just take one day, just one day a week. I swear it does make a difference. It does make you feel better. So yeah, but with all that said, good luck. Thank you very much for calling. Feel free to call back and update us. Or if you have any other further questions later, we can try to help you out.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so I think we're going to try to just kind of move things along here. Don't forget your $5 or more super chats. Supports the show, supports the production when you get those memberships in. So hashtag Team Lux, hashtag Team Ben for the votes on your $5 or more super chats. So with that, I'm ready to move on to Pip. They, them. UK wants to talk about how do we discuss J.K. Rowling with children in an age-appropriate way. Hello, Pip. Welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hello, it's going, certainly, all things considered, but I'm doing the best I can to do what is within my power, given the recent decisions that Surf Island is deciding to impose upon people. And my question today is very much related to that, because I have an 8-year-old nephew, and he is very much into Harry Potter at the minute, unfortunately. He's really into the books. He says it's his favorite book at the minute. And I've talked to him before about why I don't like J.K. Rowling, because she's a bully to trans people. But at this point, it's getting to a situation where you can't separate art from the artist. At least we can't, because there's no getting around that J.K. Rowling is using her wealth to fight against trans rights. She is actively trying to harm us because that's exactly what she does. She has money, and money is power, because fuck capitalism and all that shit. And so she's trying. While I don't, basically, there's a limit to how much I can impose on an 8-year-old boy as to what they can and can't enjoy. It's not his responsibility to really understand the separating art from the artist, because he doesn't perhaps understand at his stage that there is the independent artist who might use their position of power to bully other people. And so I'm just wondering how I can approach this tactfully and try and make a compromise with him in a way that's age appropriate, while still helping him to understand that J.K. Rowling is a really dangerous person. She is a very hurtful person who is hurting a lot of people I love without, excessively putting the burden on him to, carry the weight of all this.
I mean, yeah, honestly, I think one of the strongest things you could do is to read Harry Potter with this child, because the Harry Potter itself is fucking mean. It's not nice. Yeah. And keeping it in that context of you're reading the story and going Harry is thinking a lot of really mean thoughts about his cousin. But did his cousin do anything? Yeah, his cousin used to be mean, but now Harry goes to school and his cousin isn't mean to him, but Harry is still being mean. Harry is casting spells on this kid and he's not supposed to. Do you think that's nice? Do you think that's okay? Or when the story treats Hermione like she's super fucking annoying for being against slavery, you could say is it a nice thing that everybody ignores Hermione, that everybody thinks she's annoying because she cares whether other people are safe and happy? I do think that it is entirely possible to be let me use this story that she wrote to demonstrate that she is a mean person. And that's the language that I would use with a child. Bully is a good word to use, but just even simplifying to she's just really mean. And I don't like people who are mean. And I don't know about you as a kid, do you like people who are mean? You can totally get on the level with them like that. That's what I would do, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were saying something, Ben. Go on. I talk so much.
No, I agree with all that. Yeah, no, I agree with all that. I think starting to introduce the ideas that are terrible, within the story itself and how the story is written, because they're not great stories. There's better literature that is less racist, less supportive of slavery, and the blatant racism in that story, which you don't have to get into all of that with this kid, but like you can touch on little points where it becomes not okay, and I do think that's probably the best way to handle this. So I think Lux has a great view on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a smart kid. He's just starting to develop a sense of critical analysis. Like when he went to see the third Sonic movie, he said he enjoyed it, but he also thought it copied the plot of Sonic X too much, which for those don't know is an anime version which itself follows the plot of the games. And as funny as that might be to, consider about from an adult point of view, he's still recognizing that, wait a minute, there are different ways of telling this story, and there are different things about the story which I can like and dislike. And at this present time, I have like a small deal to him in that he's welcome to enjoy Harry Potter if he wants and reading that book, so long as he's nice to trans people. And that more or less just includes, being nice to people in general and respecting preferred pronouns like he does with me as far as he knows. And that's the extent of it, because he doesn't need like a huge amount of responsibility that I as an adult would take to really fight for the rights of minority. He's got enough to deal with on his own level. And I know for a fact that my older brother, who's his father, is raising him to be a very well-behaved and very good child in general. I know that none of my family have any sort of hurtful views, as much as they may not understand my non-binary identity and they may not get it, they at least try to respect it. And I think that's the most anyone can do, really. And I think that giving those kids that general sense of we are just people who want to be respected, that can set a good foundation for, whatever they may, grow into later in life. Maybe he'll become like an activist like me in 10 years. Maybe he won't. I don't know. That's not up to me. But at the very least, I can, give him a basis for understanding that there are some people in the world who are hurting right now, and the least we can do is just give them a space where they don't have to hurt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all. It sounds like you have like the good village for raising this child and like making sure that they come out feeling compassionate and empathetic toward other people. I do also think that if they're showing this kind of intellectual curiosity, or like, I'm thinking about this movie that I saw in a little bit more depth, that does seem to me like the perfect time to start exploring the idea of the author and like, what does the author think by writing this? Because I think that, especially when you're young, there's this feeling like books are authority. Like books confer authority. If somebody has gotten published, then like they must be right. This must be true. Not knowing that pretty much anybody can publish a book. But like, I was kind of homeschooling my younger siblings, and we were reading The Giver by Lois Sacker. And one of the things that we noticed was that caregiving of children, giving birth to children and caring for children when they're young are not highly valued in that book. Those are bad. Those are like schlubby jobs that nobody wants. So how does that reflect on like what is the author trying to say? Well, the author is a woman. She's probably reflecting on society, and that society doesn't treat caregivers and people who give birth in a very respectful manner. So I think it's the perfect age to start looking at that. Like, what did the author want you to think? What does this reflect on their beliefs? Do we agree? Introducing the idea that we can disagree with someone who has, published a book, is a great, I think, way to challenge authority and continue the literary curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that one of the first criticisms or critiques I really started to think independently about Harry Potter before, knew how much of a queen surf Joy Killer of all things is, as I like to call her, is how much of a straw bully like Dudley was, and how much the Dursleys were just every single bully archetype rolled into one, and how she was just beating you over the head with how horrible the situation with Harry was, and how you really must feel sorry for him. And I just found that to be so, to an absurd degree. And I think that we can use these characters as a means of like reframing this idea, because I can point to Dudley and say, this character was extremely mean to Harry. He was a horrible boy, and maybe he got better, maybe he didn't. We can talk about what he deserved. But would you act that way to someone in your class for being different to you? Say, for example, would you go say that anyone who has the letter L in their name is, you know, a horrible bully who doesn't deserve to be in that class? That is an absolutely absurd position. And so introducing that concept of bigotry is absurd can really help to blossom into a greater understanding of the problem whenever he is ready to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of seems to me like you have a pretty good handle on like how to appropriately address this given the age of this person. Like it sounds like you pretty much got it on lock.
Yeah,
agreed.
it's one of those things where I feel that I need to vocalize it in order to organize my thoughts. And so having it in a way of a conversation and getting other ideas really helps to get it out of my head as a jumble of words and into something with actual structure.
Yeah, totally. I am very interested in the neurological development and curiosity of children. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something I've studied a little bit with like high school level psychology, and just that alone has given me a great deal more empathy and understanding to the development of children and what they are capable of, because I know, you know, what parts of the brain are developing when and how to, you know, foster a positive development. And I hope to carry that on to, you know, minorities who may not be framed very nicely, to say the least, to make a wild understatement in the current society. Because as much as I'm stuck on Turf Island, I do at least want to make a small portion of that and find the areas that are welcoming to trans people, so that they can at least have somewhere to go where we can, you know, focus on something else other than how much the government is, you know, saying, let me oppress you harder, please.
Yeah, and actually, our last caller for today is going to get us talking about the crazy thing that just happened in the UK. So while I am super psyched to get into that, I think we probably should do it with our next person in the queue. So
yeah,
I am
absolutely.
I'm very interested in this topic, and I like it a lot. Oh yeah. I was just saying, I'm interested in this topic. I like it a lot. I'm glad that we had an opportunity to share it with people, like how to appropriately address this, because I do think it is a question that people have often.
Yeah, I will just leave you with just a reminder that it's the Labour Party who are currently in power. They are supposed to be the opposition of the Tories, who are the Conservatives of this part of this political system, and they are pretty much looking at the Tories and going, how can we best imitate them? So while I do hope that the Democrats greatly improve on their attitude towards trans people with more people like Josie, I'm not exactly holding my breath either. So other than that, thank you for the call, and good luck.
Yes, thank you, Pip. We'll talk to you again in the future. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right, so we are getting close to the end here. We still have one last caller, Ian, and then after that, we're going to move into super chats. Don't forget, with your super chats of $5 or more, you can vote either hashtag Team Ben, hashtag Team Lux. The loser has to do a funny punishment. So, with that said, let's just go ahead and move this toward a conclusion. Ian, he from Scotland, is angry about the UK High Court ruling about what is a woman. And yeah, we haven't really had a chance to pop off about this yet today. So, Ian, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hi there. Yeah, better now I've heard Pip. He's cheered me up a bit.
Sorry, what was that?
So better after Pip's call. He's cheered me up a bit. Something
Oh, yeah,
positive.
totally. Yeah, there are good people in the UK, as it turns out.
Yeah, it's good to remember that. Yeah, where to start with this High Court ruling? So the whole thing actually started in Scotland because the SNP made a ruling in the Scottish government that public bodies, their board would have to be 50% men and 50% women, and that trans women would count towards that 50% of women. And all the TERFs lost their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're saying, but that means a whole board could be made of 100% men. He's like, no, you don't get it. But that's where their minds went. So it got taken to the High Court, and the High Court, in their infinite wisdom, said, yeah, sex is absolutely 100% congruent with gender, and there's two of them. That's common sense, so that's what it is. Even though they've now directly set two parts of the Equality Act against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the Equality Act, trans people are protected from discrimination. In the Equality Act, women are protected from discrimination. I don't think... Well, there's a couple options. Either all the judges are idiots, they're scared to make a proper ruling, or they know exactly what they're doing, which is kind of scary.
I mean, they say never attribute to malice what could be attributed to ignorance or stupidity, but I do really wonder with the UK High Court, like, because I think you're right. Like, it's like, are you malicious right now, or are you just stupid? Like, the fact, I believe, that no trans people were able to advocate for themselves in this, like, I don't think that there were at least very many trans voices advocating for it. So it's like everything that happens in the UK is a bunch of cis people making decisions on behalf of trans people, and like, you try to do the correct things you're supposed to do to make an inquiry and say, why is this happening, when like all the data is the opposite and the population you're serving wants the opposite of what you're doing, and they just keep ignoring it, and then it ratchets up and up and up and up until it's literally across your entire country now trans women are considered men, and like, we don't fully understand what the implications of that will be.
Yeah, but when you look at where it came from as well, is from the whole thing taken to the High Court was from such a silly thing. It's like any public board. So this is like charities, your local council, local clubs, like anything that's covered by the Equality Act. All the SNP said, quite fairly, I think, is you're a public body. The split of the population is roughly 50% male, 50% female. We'll ignore them ignoring non-binary people just now. But, like, yeah.
We're used to it.
What's wrong with that? Just have a split. And put it in law so that people don't fuck about.
Yeah, and it's so funny, too. They don't even really care about women's rights, do they?
Yeah. It's... and I've looked into it, but not gone into detail yet. So the judges were 3 male, 2 female judges. I don't know if they took any medical advice. There's a couple of good articles on AP News, but basically every argument every week that Dr. Ben argues against seems to be what they think is fact about biology and sex.
This is
it's
why
wild.
I get so passionate, and it's like people can think I'm being pedantic, or people can think that I'm just arguing from a position of authority or whatever, which, like, I'm not using my position to say that I'm right just because I have the position. I'm citing experts way better than me who have way more data than I do. And it's like the fact that it's not just ignorant people stating ignorance, it's ignorant people asserting that their ignorance is knowledge and that their ignorance should be what is cited to pass policy and to make decisions. So it can seem like I'm being pedantic, and it can seem like I'm just grilling people on information that they don't know. But the thing is, like, if someone admits that they don't know and they're not trying to influence policy, I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to be mean to them. I'm not going to grill them on things. But if they,
I love your
if they
approach.
are, yeah, it's like if you start to claim authority and you start to try to make policy based on that, you should be held to the fire. You should have to back up your claims. And yeah, so there's a reason why we take these approaches, and we're seeing the results of where this bad rhetoric gets us.
Yeah, and I think was it the first call where the guy mentioned the CAS report? So like this is scary because all this stuff bounces across the Atlantic from Europe to America, with like all this stuff going on with medical care being withheld in like Sweden and Norway, even though they're progressive countries, and then the CAS report and all the people on the right in America saying, "Oh well, look, the British have said this, so it must be right." And now we've got over here the court has been quoted as saying that we hope we've added some much needed clarity to the situation, because as we see from our friends across the ocean, things can get a bit out of control. It's like, what the hell do you think you've just done?
Yeah, it's like you've made a bad situation much worse. And I do think it's something that we should keep a close eye on. I mean, as much as everything is falling apart in my country, I do still have a lot of sympathy because I know a ton of people specifically in the UK. Because yeah, we don't know, like, does this mean that trans women have to be patted down by male officers? Like, does it mean that trans women necessarily have to go to male prisons? Does that include bathrooms? Does having a gender recognition certificate change your status? Like, we don't know yet what the full implications are.
If you take it as the ruling from the High Court, which is the highest court in the land, which is why they were able to overrule the Scottish government, so you have to go to the bathroom of your sex assigned at birth now, or somebody will just take it to the court, and the lawyer will argue, High Court says this is what a definition is. Done. That's how dangerous
which is
it is.
Abysmal. Like stomach sinking,
and
abysmal.
Do it.
Oh, totally. I mean, I look forward to when this catches out a cis woman by accident, you know?
Yeah. I'm sure you know who funded a lot of the court case as well.
Yeah, what was it, like £70,000 that J.K. Rowling donated to that?
Yeah,
that we
and
know
the
of.
LGB Alliance.
Yeah.
Scottish Trans organisation here has spoke out against it, and I think they didn't get to speak at the in court, and they're the leading sort of organisation in Scotland on trans issues. So the fact they didn't get to speak is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a sham. It was a sham court. It was not a real court case.
And it's interesting to know, throughout the whole court case, non-binary people were not mentioned once.
Of course. I mean, yeah, of course.
Intersex people were not mentioned once.
Mm-hmm.
So
inconvenient
it was
exceptions
never even brought up to make the ruling, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm in the position of being extremely angry, having sort of pretty much come to the conclusion I'm non-binary, and I thought, oh, I wonder what the law is in Scotland. So go and have a look. It's like, oh, I can't even get a gender recognition certificate, which is needed to change your documents, because that's not covered for non-binary people.
Mm-hmm.
Non-binary people are not mentioned at all in the Equality Act as it stands now. I didn't even know that. They rely on non-binary people being covered under trans in the Equality Act, which a lot of people do consider themselves, but it's just wild how I don't even have words.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, it's like all we can do is say, yes, we're very angry. Yes, this is an indignity, and we're gonna try to fight it as much as we can. It's for you all. I think that's the thing that sucks is that your country is so small that these decisions affect everyone in your country. At least where I am, you can kind of have relative safety in different places. But yeah, I think we just have to collectively scream for a second and then get our shit together and get focused on like what can we actually do to challenge this further or figure out how to have Scotland just kind of bye I don't want to be part of you anymore. Scottish independence now. That's what I'm ready for.
Yeah, we tried that. Well, as Pitt mentioned, Labour are they're supposed to be left wing. They're very much centre now and trying to do a very good impression of the Tories. And even the SNP is a mixed bag in charge in Scotland because they're founded on nationalism. They have people across the spectrum from left, centre, and right. Their ex-finance minister is an evangelical who got some tricky questions and refused to answer them, and is more in line with Christian nationalists than she would like to admit, I think. So it's a mixed bag here in Scotland on its own as well.
Yeah. I will say we are just about ready to move to Super Chats, but I want to springboard off of that last comment to make my last comment, which is that we need to get more young people running for office because the Overton window is not going to shift on its own. We need, we've got some young people here who are just joining. I don't know how difficult it is over there, but like even just running for small local things is going to help shift things. Like we have to really like put our feet down on this and get some young people in who are not making insane decisions that harm people. But yeah, do you want to give a last word, Ian? And then we're going to pop off to Super Chats.
Yeah, being angry isn't always a bad thing. Anger is an emotion. Emotion is a shortcut to give you information. And for anger, it's when someone has not treated you right and there's been an injustice. So get angry.
Absolutely. I could not have said it better myself. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ian. Feel free to call us back later if you need any more advice or if you want to vent a little bit again in the future. We appreciate you and hope you have a good rest of your night.
Thanks, guys. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. So it's been a great show today. We're going to try to get through these Super Chats. $5 or more Super Chats. Super votes, I guess is another way we could call them. Hashtag Team Ben, hashtag Team Lux. The loser has to do a funny thing. Do we know what are we supporting?
I don't know I don't think we had a poll in the chat because I don't think Jimmy knows how to.
That's okay. We can just pick something. New system.
Yeah, I was like, we can pick something.
You need a challenge for something dumb. Is that what it is?
Yeah, we defend a stupid position.
Okay. If Ben loses,
we have to do it 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
If Ben loses, you have to defend chiropractic. And if
that's actually really funny.
If Lux loses, I can't think of something equivalent for Lux.
Dragons are stupid.
That one's
okay.
So yeah, I mean, dragons are stupid.
We can
but
maybe pick the best idea in the chat. If you throw some ideas in the chat, if
Oh,
one of
yeah.
them sounds fun, we'll do it.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want
doctors
to
of
start us off?
chiropractic and doctors of physical therapy making decisions.
Oh, God.
By the way, if
Yeah,
he's
no,
a
I
doctor,
will-
so am I.
I know.
Yeah, no, I will. I'll stick. If I lose, I'll stick with the chiropractic topic because that's just really funny. And I will
Mhm.
I will actually physically feel pain, doing
Well,
that
be-
topic. Now
Just
I
go to
feel
the
like
chiropractor.
the chat's
They'll
gonna.
work it out.
Yeah, I know the chat's gonna stack this against me. I'm sure.
I just noticed
But
what
yeah, I
shirt
could
you're
start with
wearing,
this one.
Lux. Ew, you fanboy. Ugh.
I know. Old school Mr. Atheist merch.
Sounds fake.
Anyway,
All right.
I know. It's very silly.
Yeah, I can start with the first one. $4.99 from Louise Richardson. At least in the UK, the government can fall with a vote of no confidence. In the US, we're stuck with set terms for politicians. Yeah, it'd be nice to have a little vote of no confidence, but there's a lot of things wrong with our system right now. So,
$5 from Mira G. Thank you. Says, hi, Lux and Ben. Love y'all so much. A better question is, did the stock market crash because trans mathlets? Hashtag trans nerd power. Hashtag team Luxander. Hashtag go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Heart. Indeed.
oh,
We're
mathletes, I get
crashing
it.
every market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. $10 from Razor Sharp. The flip of Zach's argument is, why do we allow parents to influence the lives of their children when the kid knows nothing about the world? Yeah, interesting counter to that.
I saw this when it came up in the chat, and I was like, I don't know how to respond to that.
Hey, 1 second, real quick. I want
Yeah.
to I just for a little help thing. So I'm actually showing a new producer the reins. If people in chat, and it's fine if a ton of you do this, if y'all will help keep track with Luxander's number first and Ben's second. So like right now, if people will just super chat 1-0, like that's the current score, Lux to Ben. And just keep doing that because I'm going to abandon the new person for a minute to take care of some stuff. And it'll help make sure that we keep the score updated correctly. So y'all can help along. It also helps the algorithm anyway. More clicks. So just keep track of the score with us. Lux is first. So 1-0 would be the current score. Thanks, people.
True. I'll try to point out too. Okay, that's another score for whoever.
Yeah,
to try
we
to make
can
it a little bit
help.
easier. Totally. That's a 5 Australian from Puggles. Thank you. No comment.
€10 from Vince P. Hey, Vince from Finland here. This show cracked my egg. I've seen every episode since the first one, and I can't emphasize enough how much of a resource you have been to me. I appreciate the shout out, and I love this so much for you. We are here to crack the eggs. We'll
It's
crack
true.
everyone's eggs.
$5 from Mira G. Thank you. Says, I did some research equals I Googled my bias and listened to right-wing echo chambers, quoting Zach. Hashtag team Dr. 10. Hashtag go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Love you, Jimmy. UK Gov. Go fuck yourself. Perfect. Yes, we are now tied 1-1. Zach was a silly call.
Yeah, $5 from Jason Jones. Hey, folks and people, Pauls Valley, Oklahoma is having our first Pride event on June 1st, 2025. It'd be cool if you could make it. Hashtag Team Lux. Amazing. And we're now 2-1 Lux to Ben. And that's awesome. So excited for you to have Pride. Everyone go to Pride. Go to every Pride if you can. Go to as many Prides as you possibly can. Get those numbers up. It'll be great.
Be safe. $5 from Jamnik06. Thank you. Says, Lux, my only beef is your assumption that I was talking about a live action remake when I said I was in training for a show with dragons. 1 out of 2. Listen, the How to Train Your Dragon. I'm so annoyed. I'm like, stop doing that. I'm so annoyed.
Continuation of this, $5 from Jamnik6. The second of 2. I was talking about the Untrainable Dragon show and the Isle of Berk at Universal's Epic Universe. I'll be one of the Viking drummers. Hashtag Team Dragons. That's awesome. Go be a Viking
Hashtag
drummer.
Team Dragons
Sounds fun.
represents a vote for me. So now it's 3-1.
It's 3-1.
That's how that works. You know what's funny? Because we are hardline, like you have to have the hashtag, but we are very flexible on what is actually in the contents of the hashtag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as we understand, we're good. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. $5 from Cursed Chaos. Thank you. It says, I don't have anything clever for this super chat. Hashtag Team Anarchy, parentheses Lux. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Yes. I don't know. Why does everybody say go fuck yourself, Jimmy?
Oh, because that's what he likes to hear. That's
he
what Jimmy likes to
Okay.
hear.
That was a vote for me. I'm 4-1 now.
Yeah. I love how the pendulum swings every week, how it's like Lux lost the last time we were on, and now I feel like everyone's going to make sure that I lose this time. It's
the people are going to riot if you don't give me my point, producer.
Yeah. Give Lux the point.
4-1 now.
$9.99 from JW Edgy. Question: if intersex people are about 1 to 2% of the population, what does that mean? What does it mean most men are 100% men? Do most men have 1 to 2% female traits that don't matter? How much aberrance is needed to qualify as intersex? Hashtag Team Ben. And this is again where it's an issue, because if people don't really agree on, like, it's really hard to have a set definition of how much intersex makes you intersex. And I would say that most of the data probably reflects people that either self-identify as intersex or that meet a certain level of societally acceptable intersex traits, to where they've been defined as intersex. So I would argue as well that this is a low estimate of the amount of intersex people actually in society.
Yeah, didn't we stop? We used to do chromosome tests with athletes, and we stopped doing it because of how frequently people would find out they're intersex. Yeah. So that's 4-2 now. Ben is at 2. $5 from Alia Shauna Silverbow says, hashtag Team Lux was the first to make a cat appear on screen. Take my vote, cat. Okay, now it's 5-2. And yes, I did cheat by producing my cat, and I'll do it again.
I shut my cat outside the room so she wouldn't make extra noise.
As good as the chiropractic.
Oh.
Lux for 2 minutes would have to defend that the best theological debates are all happening in Facebook threads.
In Facebook what?
Like comment sections on Facebook.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah, sure. The most intellectual conversations happen on Facebook. Got it.
The best spot.
$5 from Dade Murphy. Hashtag excuse me, but this $5 is due to the cat having made an appearance on screen. Hashtag Team Lux. Okay.
I cheated. What a good baby. That makes it 6-2.
So it's now 6-2.
It's not a cat, that's a void. I know. He's so sleepy. He's so tired of my shit right now. $5 from Ari Turner says, number 1, RFK Jr. can go choke. Number 2, since Elon Musk is supposedly, quote, autistic, according to RFK, he shouldn't be running a damn thing like he is. Hashtag Team Lux. Fucking true. Can't argue with that.
Right? The contradictions are wild.
Yeah. Don't you know autistic people are incapable of paying taxes, and that's the most important thing about them? Anyway.
Yeah. €5 from Man with a Drone. I went to the doctor for my physical. He said, you're going to have to quit masturbating. I said, why? He said, because I'm trying to examine you. Oh my God.
That's a good one.
That would be uncomfortable. That would be super uncomfortable.
It would certainly be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
$5 from Alia Shauna Silverbow. Thank you. It says, did you hear about the guy who dipped his balls in glitter? Pretty nuts. Hashtag Team Mitternacht. True. I'm cheating with the cat vote
control today. Yeah.
What is Mitternacht?
It's me. It's my cat. His name is Midnight in German.
£10 from Jackie Greenland. Multiple chats today for reasons that shall become clear. I was hoping to call in and talk about what was happening here at home right now and why it is both as bad and not as bad as people say. And yeah, coming from the Mariel land of Turf Island. And we did cover it at least, but unfortunate everything that's happening.
Yeah, it will be easier in the next couple weeks to really talk about the implications as we start to see what policy changes happen as a result of that court case. Continuing on, £10 from Jackie Greenland. Thank you. Says, however, my flight into Newark was later than planned. I can at least report that I got no trouble crossing the border with my passport, despite the visa advice. Small wins as to getting back home. I'm glad that you didn't have any difficulties. That's a good thing.
$5 from JamNick6. When 3 people have sex, it's called a threesome. With 4, it's called a foursome. That's why some people say I'm handsome. Hashtag masturbation jokes. Hashtag Team Mitternacht. I would kind of love if, like, we know that this is for Lux because of Team Mitternacht, but I would kind of love if masturbation jokes is also for Lux.
I'm okay with it. I'm all right with that. You gotta love this. You gotta love yourself, and from all other things, love will flow. Anyway, $5 from Jamnico6 says, TBH, I'm not quite sure how I feel about masturbation. On the one hand, it feels good. Hashtag Team Black Kitty. True. I appreciate it. I don't know what has happened to you people. I don't know who started this, and that y'all have decided to continue it. Like, all right, I'm here for it, though.
Masturbation jokes.
Yeah.
10 pounds from Jackie Greenland. Well, that's just a mess with not enough space here to talk about. So sadly, my more sizable donations will be going to local legal funds for now. Apologies, but we do what we must. Hashtag Team Dr. Ben. Absolutely. Like, as much as we appreciate the support from everybody, we totally understand the need to financially support organizations that are trying to get us out of this mess.
Yeah. I mean, and I will argue that, like, your dollar might go, I say my dollar, your pound might go further if you could donate to an organization. So, like, while we do need to send individual help to people, like, for example, who are trying to flee, diversifying a little bit will make sure that your money is getting the most possible impact. So we do appreciate that you are putting those resources where they will be most helpful.
But if you give it all to us, I'll become president and fix everything.
Oh, true. Yeah. Support Jimmy for president.
Jimmy for president.
Rather
We're starting the
die.
campaign. We're launching it as of today.
Jimmy 2028. He'd rather die.
True. $5 from Alyashana Silverbro. Thank you. Says, scientists have just discovered a fossilized dinosaur fart. They say it's a blast from the past. Hashtag farts are funny. Hashtag Team Lux. That was a good one. I appreciate that. It's like a child-friendly pun.
Yes. €5 from Man with a Drone. Why did the sperm cross the road? Because I put the wrong socks on this morning. Oh, God. Love it.
That's awful.
Love
I
it.
hate that.
Today with all the masturbation jokes.
Thank you for the 10 Canadian units from Jessica Gallagher, who says, sending love and hope and a little Canadian cash. We appreciate all of those things, and I will send back love and hope to you, but I'm keeping the cash.
There we go. $10 from Maud. Can we please go back to a society where if a person is not educated in a subject, they recognize that their opinion on it is less valuable than those of people who are? Hashtag Team Lux. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lack of respecting expertise nowadays. And again, like, it's okay to be less educated, and it doesn't mean that more education makes you right. But recognizing your limits is important. And I think with education oftentimes comes humility. And I say that for the most part. There are definitely people who are wrong about that as well.
When did we have that society that we could go back to it? Y'all,
that's a good point as well. Yeah, we never had that society. We never had that
number
society.
One authorities for the last several centuries were clergy. Are you crazy?
Very hostile to people who were educated in the subjects. Yeah. I fantasize about it. Yeah, you're right.
Right. Go back to this. Yeah, an ideal we made fun of. In which case, let's make America great again.
Yeah, let's go into an Ursula Le Guin story where people are in awe of masters who talk about things they do not understand. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I don't know whose this is. Is this one mine? I forgot. Anyway, $5 from Mod says, shut up and listen to the smart people. Hashtag Team Lux, because I want to see Ben defend something stupid. He's going to be in agony today. We don't usually tailor it to
mean one.
Specifically something that we would not like to do. So that's going to be fun.
Except the one time was when I made Arden defend why Baldur's Gate is the best game ever. That was great.
I guess she doesn't like Baldur's Gate. I missed that one.
She doesn't. She likes being wrong sometimes. She calls it an objectively terrible game, despite it being one of the greatest games of all time.
Okay,
Baldur's Gate.
So I made her defend that position that Baldur's Gate is the best, and so that was the other targeted one that was amazing, and chat rallied around that one. So
nice. That's fun.
Did she focus on the nudity
just
being
like
the
they're doing
reason
here.
why it's good? Because that seems like what she would do.
No.
Oh.
No.
Anyway, I think
is
this
this
one's
one
yours
mine,
now.
I think?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 10 Canadian from Quantum Chaos. The revelation that Gohan has a sibling who is a non-binary pal is so revealing on his motivation for being a transphobic asshole. Hashtag Team Lux, but also hashtag Team Ben. I can't choose. Don't make me choose. So none of your votes count in
No
that
vote.
case.
No
Yeah,
vote.
no vote. We appreciate the sentiments, but it's does not get you a vote.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't say this in the call, but I do just want to remark on it now that I think that Gohan's problem is a problem that a lot of people have, and that is an inability to be vulnerable in the way that is required to actually connect with other people. And I think a lot of us
Yeah.
struggle with that. Like, you have to actually be willing to admit that you don't know what's going on, that you don't understand something, that you're not an expert, and say, like, I still love you and I care about you and I prioritize that relationship. Like, people sometimes are just not capable of being genuinely connected to other folks. So that seems like what is actually the problem and not so much the ideological problem there. But anyway, $5 from DaCosta. Thank you, says hashtag Team Lux. Fire. I look forward to seeing when we get to the David Haxor votes, all of your numbers just going up and up and up. It's going to be great.
Yes. $5 from Jamnik. My brothers and I are all over 6 feet tall. If we were to beat off at the same time, would it be called mental masturbation? Hashtag masturbation jokes. Hashtag Team Lux. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the 5 Canadian from Jessica Gallagher. Says, oopsie, forgot my hashtag Team Ben. Many, many hearts.
Thank you for
We
the
appreciate
sympathy
it. Thank
vote,
you.
Jessica. We all know
totally.
where this is going. The audience is just very, very set on me defending chiropractic. Very set
David
on it.
Haxor is working his way to Team Ben 10. He's working his way up
He's
there. We'll
working on
see.
it. He's working.
Yeah.
Is this one mine?
Yeah, it's
5
yours.
pounds from Temporal Split. I can't count anymore either.
Mm.
Any plans to bring on some non-American hosts at some point? Show is still great, but without Katie, it's been left feeling a bit cis-Atlantic. Hashtag Team Lux.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we would love if Katie would come back. We acknowledge that she is busy and doing other things. There's a process for like other hosts. It's a pretty extensive vetting process. So if somebody comes along that we think would be an asset, that'd be awesome. But we're not going to seek out somebody who's from that side just because they're from that part of the globe.
Totally. $5 from Alia Shana Silverbow. Thank you. Says 2 years ago, my doctor told me I was going deaf. I haven't heard from her since. Hashtag doctor joke for Dr. Ben. Hashtag Team Lux. That was a good one.
Does that cancel it out? Because it was a doctor joke for me and a vote for you.
We can count it as null. I don't care. I don't care.
15 units from Fishy Cerno. Sorry, Lux, even though I'm your fan and got to give it to Ben on this statement. Are you having your orgasm because you feel you're right? Hashtag Team Ben. Yeah, I was angry today, but I've also talked with Gohan in the past, and he just was being an asshole to be an asshole. So I have no shame.
Yeah,
I know it's going to get clipped out, and I don't mind.
We usually don't just be an asshole to people out of nowhere. It's if we really bust out on somebody, it's because we have already had multiple calls with them, or they have called the other shows multiple times or something. So yeah, sometimes we come in spicy and it's like kind of just based on the call, but sometimes we come in much more spicy and it's because they've repeatedly wasted our time.
Yeah, and the fact that somebody was being disrespectful towards a trans person, and they felt that they were the victim because they were having consequences of being disrespectful. Like, no, fuck off. We don't need to tolerate that here.
$5 from DaCosta says, by the way, waking up to watch TACIS is much better than doing homework. Hashtag Team Lux. Listen, do your homework. Do it. Okay.
Do it. Do your homework.
That's all. You better get that homework done. Mom moment.
$4.99 from June Urich. Gohan is almost awesomely gender anarchist, but took the ball and ran completely in the wrong direction. Hashtag Team Lux. Yeah, if he took that gender anarchy and was like, hey, I don't believe in gender because I think people should just be individuals and do whatever the fuck they want, like that would be a more reasonable take. But that was not his take.
Yeah. It's like the prescriptivism that I can't deal with. 5 pounds from Mystic Minds Analysis Tavern says, I went to the doctor screaming, I'm a wigwam, I'm a teepee, I'm a wigwam, I'm a teepee. And the doctor said, relax, mate, you're too tense. Good one.
Wow. 5 pounds from Harder Gamer. Thanks for all you do. Hashtag Team Ben. Thank you, Harder Gamer.
Indeed.
I don't know if your name Harder Gamer is in reference to that you play harder games
or is this part of the masturbation joke?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, only was thinking that because of all of the jokes. But
we've been put in that mindset. $20. Thank you, Mr. Buriqua10 says, howdy, hashtag Luxander. That's my vote. And Dr. Ben, hope y'all are well. Came during Gohan's call. Well, that's too much information. Dude sounded as dishonest and entitled as ever. Here's some money to make up for my absence. Also, good luck to Adrian. Much love. Keep on, hearts. True.
Now we're just making everything a masturbation joke.
Now I can't get my brain off of it.
Team masturbation jokes.
It is.
$5 from Ari Turner. I'd call J.K. Rowling the cunt, but she lacks the depth and the warmth. Hashtag Team Lux. Yeah, cunts are too good for J.K. Rowling.
It's true.
For real.
Cunts are beautiful. $4.99 from June Urich, thank you, says, Jowling Cowling also hates asexuals now too. I think the black mold in her castle sent her off the deep end. Hashtag Team Ben. I did see that. She's just coming out swinging against everybody that she doesn't like. I don't understand her.
Yeah. She's just desperate for attention, even though she already has plenty of attention. She's just mad that she's not relevant anymore.
Now she's like, let me do an HBO show.
Isherwood. Yeah. 5 pounds from Sean Isherwood. The UK Supreme Court decision on Wednesday sucks. I had a bad day today too. It's 22:23 here when I type now. I just want the day to end. So sorry, Sean. And you know it's a bad day for Sean when there isn't a math joke.
I think we do get one later. But
we do? Okay.
We crave the math jokes.
Okay, Sean?
Is it okay?
Yeah.
I know it's a bad day for you guys. $10 from Mira G says, solidarity with my UK trans siblings. We've been in the thick of anti-trans BS for so long across the world. From the US perspective, it's been real dark for me lately, trying to have hope. Hashtag Team Void Kitty. Hashtag Jimmy go fuck yourself. And trans flag. Yeah, I'm like, there's nothing I can say to like make it better. I'm like, I want to offer hugs to all my UK trans friends, but like that doesn't fucking help anything. We're just all drowning now. Sucks.
Yeah. $9.99 from Killed XM. Hashtag Team Lux.
Yes.
I'm getting brutalized in these votes.
I know. Here we go. The 5 pounds from Sean Isherwood. The Ramanujan summation of 1 plus 2 to the second plus 3 to the second plus ... is 0. Similar to the whole 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus ... quote equals minus 1/12 thing. I still feel bad. Why doesn't maths help? Sigh. Once again, I'm happy to have been the vessel for whatever incantation you have just created. I've just cast a spell of some kind, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, there's some uninhabited island that now there are demons just running around it.
Yeah.
In every show, there's a new demon.
I'm sorry this one's hitting you again. It's always you.
It is always me. $20 from Mr. Boriqua 10. British. Oi, Rowling. Fancy not being an absolute wanker. I imagine you're having a right hard time from not spewing your bile all over the bloody plane. Fancy having art? Or was it too much to handle? Would you be going... It's so hard because it's written... I think it'd be easier to read the accent if it just said it in the words. Would you be going 6s and 7s? It's like trying to get the apostrophes in the right place instead of improving it. But
it's weird
all over
that
the bloody planet.
They put H on the word heart, which, considering the number of people I know with that kind of accent,
would be
the word heart would be the
accent.
least H'd word that be ought. Wouldn't even be art, it'd be ought.
Yeah.
It's true. Well, 5 pounds from Sean Isherwood says, the line is a source of hope for so many. Keep fighting the good fight. I started watching late. You helped with my low mood. Thanks. And hi, Jimmy. I'm glad that we helped. That's always like, sometimes I start these shows and I'm like, I'm really not in a good place. But usually by the end, I feel a lot better. So I'm glad that
Yeah.
other people feel the same.
I'm high Jimmy too. Just kidding, I'm not.
He wishes he was. 5 Canadian from David Haxor. Hashtag Team Ben 1. Here we go. We're starting the
Now it
countdown.
begins.
Count up. Count up.
Yeah, it's a count up for sure. 5 pounds from Jessica says, if we are giving suggestions for something to defend, loser defends the line logo just because it's funny. Hashtag Team Ben 10.
I'll do
I don't
it.
even
The
know
new
what it
line
was
logo is
before.
perfect.
That would have been great for while Jimmy's here.
Mm-hmm.
$20 from A Dragon Ate Me. What is it with NBs and dragons? I say as an NB with the cabinet of dragon statues I collected over 25 years. Several large dragon art pieces around the house and dragon wallpaper on every device. Hashtag Team Dragon.
I don't think it's just non-binary people, because I know Arden also is like weirdly into dragons. But yeah, I mean, I think it's because of the like, the construct of a dragon is almost more cohesive than the construct of a gender. And I identify with being large enough to crush buildings beneath my feet and rip things apart with my claws. So I don't know. It's fun.
No, who would be hashtag Team Bad Dragon?
Oh, well, that's definitely
no.
me.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I have 3 Bad Dragon toys. 4. Anyway, Canadian $5 from David Haxor. Hashtag Team Ben 2. Thank you.
Starting the count up. 5 Canadian from David Haxor. Hashtag Team Ben 3. Making our way.
Another Canadian $5 from David Haxor. Hashtag Team Ben 4. This is where it starts to get questionable what the result is going to be.
Yeah. 5 Canadian from David Haxor. Hashtag Team Ben 5. Working the magic.
Yeah. $9.99 from KilledXM for the cat. Hashtag Team Lux. Thank you. Appreciate that. He's still over here. I'm not going to pick him up a third time. He's been very, very patient with me.
5 Canadian from David Haxor. Hashtag Team Ben 6. Stuffing the ballot is fun. Yeah, and you're allowed to do that here because the votes are based on money. You throw money at us, so
it's true. $5 from Marceline. Thank you. Says, bring back science to UK and USA. Don't succumb to the brainworms. Hashtag Team Lux, because I see a cat. Yeah, we're getting close to a place where in America, it's going to start being like, you're a terrorist if you say we should fund the NIH. Nightmare situation.
Yeah, for real. 5 Canadian from David Haxor. Hashtag Team Ben 7.
Hell yeah. $5 from Ari Turner says, take $5 because Mitternacht always brings me happiness. Hashtag Sleepy Void Kitty. Yeah, he's a good boy. I'm considering getting him a younger companion to bother and annoy him so that he will be more active.
$5 from Kai. Ben, what time are you on next? I DM'd you on DC a few weeks ago about some classification stuff, told to call in, but I missed you. Next time, hopefully, hashtag Team Ben. So fun. I'm supposed to be on next week, but I have to have a chat with Arden because I got tasked with a meeting. I was supposed to have meetings on Tuesdays, and I think they moved it to a Thursday, so I'll have to have a backstage chat. But we'll figure out. Yeah, but definitely call in. And I apologize for some of the short response there. It's like just for everybody's knowledge. Like I'm super burnt out and super overwhelmed with life, and if you ask me questions related to either my job or trans things, and it's not part of a show, I will probably not respond because I just do not have the bandwidth. So if you have anything related to trans issues, gender issues, like call in or super chat, because it's a place where I've set aside time and bandwidth to handle and happy to address it here.
There is something funny about, we literally have a call-in show where people can call in with their challenges and questions. And yet so many people think, oh, so they want me to email? Like, no.
Like, no.
Nobody, no one's like,
I get paid to be here. I don't get paid to answer your email.
And I'm not, for the record, y'all who send them like directed to specific people, I don't forward them. I just write back call in if I write anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Jimmy, close call in studio. It's still going. Canadian $5 from David Haxor says hashtag Team Ben 8. Thank you very much for another dono. I think that they went so long that now we're in letters.
Yeah. Wow.
They're just still going. We appreciate it.
5 Canadian from David Haxor, hashtag Team Ben 9.
Hell yeah.
I like how no one has continued helping make sure that the score is right.
Well, I mean, you're here.
We've
You
been
should be
tracking
keeping
it,
track.
yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm like stepping away and back and stuff.
I've been watching it. I'll call it out if it's not correct.
New producer is on it, I guess. $5 from Mira G. Thank you again. Hashtag Team Ben 10. I love that it's always
Beating
someone
David
else that does
Haxor
that.
Yeah. That gets the 10.
Mm-hmm.
5 Canadian for David Haxor, hashtag Team Ben. Sorry to disappoint, counting in hexadecimal is better. Which, I mean, you can keep adding, like, you can keep counting up, like, that's fine. I know David Haxor did that before, so. It's like, because I was like, I know with the 10 we weren't going to get there, but maybe. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the €5 from Man with a Drone. Says hashtag Team Lux because I know Ben will be a master debater. True. I'm a cunning linguist. So.
Yeah. 5 Canadian from David Haxor, hashtag Team Ben B. We're going on letters now.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
There we go. Yeah. I love it.
Awesome. £5 from Jack says, I guess I'm a boy now. Feels kind of gross, not gonna lie. Here's one for the boys. Hashtag Team Ben. Oof. I know. It's a process.
So sorry.
You're like, I gotta be greasy now.
5 Canadian from David Haxor, hashtag Team Ben C. You know, we appreciate it. We appreciate the contribution, David Haxor.
I'm sorry for your bank. Just like $25 purchases. Gotta be crazy. $5 from Backcountry Life. Thank you. Says, hello, love the show. What advice would you have for other LGBTQ people to get through these hard times? What help do you get through times like this? I mean, to be completely honest, sometimes I'm trying to talk to my partner about things and I just start kind of bawling and I'm like, uh-oh, that was unexpected. So what we realize in these moments is that maybe we're not doing a very good job of taking care of ourselves. And mostly what we're doing is compartmentalizing. So sit with your feelings. Don't spend every single moment of your life distracting yourself and get off the fucking internet. Is what I will say.
Yes. Get off the fucking internet. It's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
5 Canadian from David Haxor, hashtag Team Ben D.
Hell yeah.
We're tied.
It's Team Ben post phalloplasty. Team Ben D. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. $5 from Marceline says, in the 2000s, played D&D with a judge. She always played a wizard. Caster Bader Ginsburg can play with herself. Hashtag Team Lux. Fascinating.
There you go. 5 Canadian from Quantum Chaos. Gotta offset my fellow Canadian David Haxor's ballot stuffing a bit. Hashtag Team Lux. Hashtag elbows up. There you go.
Elbows up. This is also what you
That
do at a
goblin
mosh
energy.
pit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you keep people away from you at the mosh pit. Just lost my headphones. Hold on. Give me a sec. Another Canadian $5 from David Haxor. Hashtag Team Ben E. Team Ben when he detransitions.
Yeah.
I'm just saying shit now. Sorry.
This is great. £5 from Sean Isherwood. Tell us some kidney maths, please, Ben. I know they use partial differential equations. Study them. That's all I know. Yeah. Some of my favorites are related to electrolyte math. So it's primarily unit conversions. But some of my favorites is management of hyponatremia and using what concentration of saline in order to increase the person's sodium without overcorrecting, because if you overcorrect, you could kill them. And so that's super fun. There's your kidney math.
Nice. 5 Canadian from David Haxor. Hashtag Team Ben F. It's very close, you guys. You're gonna only have like a couple more minutes to try to, get this very close race into a more clear winner-loser situation.
Yeah.
I don't know how long, Arden sometimes lets us go for an extra 10 minutes getting more votes in, but I don't know if Jimmy's going to be down for it today.
5 Canadian from David Axor, hashtag Team Ben 10. Okay, so now we're back at 10. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We've resumed.
Yes.
I'm gonna open a stopwatch every time we go more than 30, if we go more than 30 seconds without a new super chat, that's when we're calling it from the last super chat being read.
All right. Well, $5 from a Dragon Ate Me says #Team Lux. I need Ben to defend chiropractic. Do you want Ben to have to defend chiropractic? Or like, what did we decide that I was going to have to do? I don't even know what I'm doing.
Defend Facebook atheism debates.
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, got it. So we're tied now. We need like 2 votes for one or the other of us.
Yeah.
I will do that. We'll do that. I mean, we're also not going to take forever, but first person to get a 2-point lead wins. So y'all got to get them in now for that.
Or if we get locked in a dead stalemate, we should make Jimmy do it.
I ain't gonna do shit. Well, what would I defend? The new logo? I'll defend that anyway.
Yeah.
New logo's pristine.
Yeah, defend the new logo.
I made it. Totally. Of course I will. My favorite part of the people attacking me for the new... People don't realize, like, I don't mind that a lot of people disliked it. I mind that almost everyone who disliked it was a giant asshole about it. So I'm like, I'll fucking keep it just to piss you off.
Our
Like,
audience is full of assholes, it turns out, actually.
Yeah. Well, most
they're assholes
audiences
to us
are
all the
90%.
time.
Also, I loved how many were like, why'd you ask for our input if you weren't going to listen to it? And I just was like, please send the screenshot of when I asked for your input. I never did it once. Never once did I ask. I just said, here's the new logo.
Bye.
Yeah. It's also like, it's just the profile photo. Every individual show has its own logo and it makes cool coins. That's why I did it. I make coins now.
Yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah.
5 Canadian from David Haxor, #Team Ben 11.
Winding down here. $5 from the Cosmic Thieves Guild. Thank you. It says, random question, but how do you introduce yourself to people who only know your dead name from long ago? #Team Void Kitty. I might be like, oh yeah, I used to go by this name. So if you remember me from high school, that's the name you would have known me by, but I go by this other name now. I try to not like linger on that kind of stuff. I'm like, let's just keep it on moving. This is the new expectation.
$5 from my Dragon Ate Me, #Team Lux for Mosh Pits. I saw Meshuggah yesterday. Elbows
Elbows
pit.
up.
Oh my God.
£5 from Harder Gamer. Ben must win. LOL. #Team Ben.
Just so you
I love that
know,
we have introduced this.
It's been me that's been spreading the rumor that Lux's dead name is Putin Hussein Obama.
Oh, that was you. Okay, I see. That makes more sense now.
My bad.
I was like, where the fuck did that come from?
5 Canadian from Quantum Chaos. #Team Lux. But if you think it's because I want to hear more Ben, if you think about it, it's because I want to hear more Ben, so don't feel too bad. Okay.
True. 5 from Canadian Haxor, #Team Ben 12. Hell yeah. This is a beat off. That's true. Harder Gamer.
This is great though. I love it. I love the support. Thank you everybody for your support. These votes are awesome. $5 from Kai. #Team Ben. Sorry again for the long ass DM. Ben, Jimmy, please make a schedule for the line that exists outside the host. Saying it in shows if possible. It's I believe Arden is the one who makes our schedule for TACIS.
But you can go to the channel. Anytime you go to the channel and you go to the tab that says live, we have them scheduled out for like a full week in advance. You can see all the shows coming up for the next week, what time they are, what day they are, and who is going to be hosting on the thumbnails. So you can always just check our channel and see.
We get those requests a lot because people think that we have a static schedule that we expect to be true for months in advance, when in reality it's like we have a rough schedule for a month and we verify the schedule each week, because if y'all have ever tried to herd YouTubers, you know it sucks. Nobody, oh, I said I'd be there at that time. What I meant was no.
Happens sometimes. Yeah. 499 from Julia Ann, thank you. Says, this very introverted autistic is now headed to the American Atheist Convention. Sad I won't see you there. #Team Ben Hearts. I didn't even know that was happening.
You will see Promise and Owen and Arden's given us on behalf of TACIS. Is giving us.
Oh, that's what she's doing. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can't go because my job apparently needs me, but also the military not sure if I should be allowed. So it's like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna give me the work of this many people, at least let me stay. Like,
Be like, all right, we're gonna give you a card. Go fix the measles, and if you don't, you're no longer trans.
True.
Yeah. $5 from domestic, hashtag Team Lux.
Thank you. $5 from Mr. Boricuaten, also hashtag Lux. Appreciate it.
Tied again. $5 Canadian from David Haxor, hashtag Team Ben 13. Thank you, David. What's the highest a tie has gotten on this show? We need to like keep a record and see if people can beat it.
Really up there. This is very up there.
This is high. Yeah.
$5 from domestic says hashtag Team Lux. Thank you. This is insane.
I will tell you, as soon as we hit like, if the tie gets up to 50s,
I was about to
votes
say,
cost $10.
Yeah, no, yeah, we have done that before, I guess, where it's like after a certain point, the vote amount goes up. Whatever.
$5 from Mr. Boricua 10. Hashtag Mitternacht. I don't speak German. Vincenacht as always.
Yeah, he wins the night.
Wins the night as always. There you go.
German's such a funky language because sometimes if you just say it out loud, you're like, oh, it just sounds like you're chewing gum while saying it in English.
Yeah.
I do notice that if an American is speaking German fluently, it to me sounds like I should be able to understand what they're saying, but it's just gibberish. It's very interesting.
It sounds like a joke. It sounds like you're trying to put on an act. Mitternacht wins the Nacht. Like that's silly. Come on, guys.
True. $5 from Kai, hashtag Team Ben 3. Ben must win. Cheating with fluffy animals must not be rewarded. Also for the sake of that person who's voted like 13 times. Yeah, totally.
Speaking of that person, $5 Canadian for David Axler, hashtag Team Ben 14. And it's more than that because David also put in the letters.
So it's like Team Ben 20 or something at this point.
Yeah, something like that. Y'all are committed. This is intense.
David's cool.
Tensions have never been higher.
David's cool patron.
David also gives me super thanks on my videos separately from this, so I appreciate that. I'm not taking it hard at all when you vote for Ben a million billion times. He's kind of carrying the Team Ben team right now.
He really is. Before David, I was at like 3. It was like 15 to 3 or something. So
it's funny because it took a long time for this to happen, to the point that we would joke behind the scenes about like, I wonder when people will figure out, instead of sending $50, if they send 10 $5, they'll get 10 votes. But clearly it's finally happened. Years before it really happened.
Yeah.
$5 from a Dragon Ate Me says there's a whole video about mutually intelligible sentences in Germanic languages. Highly recommend. Hashtag Team Lux. I like language, generally speaking.
I love language too. We gotta chat about languages because I've gotten down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm a nerd for linguistics and etymology.
Yes, we will chat offline for sure. $5 from A Krenich. Hashtag Team Ben. Thank you for the vote. I probably butchered your name, and I'm sorry.
I'm not.
Lux is not sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sorry.
Vote for Ben.
$5 from the Cosmic Thieves Guild. Thank you. Says fluffy animals should always win. I agree. You've wasted your opportunity to vote for me.
Darn. Adding a new rule as this goes on. First one to get $100 super chat in one go also will win.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so just one person with a $100 super chat. Yeah. You can just swing the whole election.
We're calling it the must vote.
True.
Oh, so Kai is now doing a count up. $5 from Kai, hashtag Team Ben 4. We're just adding more count ups. This is entertaining.
$5 from Mr. Brittiquaten, hashtag Mitternacht, save us from the void. We needs kitty loves. I know. Every time I've picked him up today, he's been literally asleep, and I'm not going to do it a third time. That just seems rude. But he is right there, and I can see how cute he is, and you should be jealous. Yeah, he's just like, why? Again.
$5 from domestic hashtag Team Lux.
Nice. $5 from the Cosmic Thieves Guild. There you go. Oops, forgot. Hashtag Team Lux. I appreciate you coming back. I was like, man, missed opportunity.
This is wild. 5 Canadian from David Haxor, hashtag Team Ben 15.
This is the song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends. $5 from Jam to Go 6.
Yeah.
Thank you. Says, there's plenty of fish in the sea, but until I catch one, I'm stuck here just holding my rod. Hashtag Team Masturbation Jokes. Hashtag Team Lux. Thank you.
That's actually the second time you've gotten a 2-point lead, which is now about to become 3. So now I'm going to say,
they're still
unless
coming in.
somebody gives $100, well, there's literally the last one that came in is also for you. So unless somebody
Okay.
gives $100 within the next 2 minutes, Lux does technically win, but $100 can reset it. That's how we're doing this. It's unfair. I'm a dictator.
5 Canadian from Quantum Chaos, hashtag Team Lux, because Ben secretly loves chiropractic medicine, and I just want to get him to get the chance to do his thing under the cover of a joke.
Nice.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
There's 2 more that just came in for Ben.
This is great. This is so great.
We're having fun. We're having fun here.
Yeah.
5 Canadian from David Haxor, hashtag Team Ben 16. That's too many different forms to shapeshift into. That's so many different monsters.
Yeah, too many. $5 from Kai, hashtag Team Ben 5. This man is gonna win. I don't know. The Lux votes keep coming in. So we'll see.
True. Hard to say.
Sorry, it's
we may have just,
Jover.
we just clinched it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's over. That's it.
Canadian from
Thanks
David
for the
Haxor,
effort,
hashtag Team
folks.
Ben 17. Yeah, it's hard.
Oh.
It's hard when you can tip the scale with $100 donation. But it's happened.
Yeah.
We're calling it. It's over. So
Yeah.
Jover.
Oh yeah, and here you go. This is Lux. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much. That's extremely generous. I mean, and you people who repeatedly donate, that's also very generous. We appreciate it.
There's all these supers now coming in. So I don't know if you guys think you're going to flip it, but we're going to go ahead and give Lux 100-point advantage because that's what we said.
Yeah.
I don't think you guys are overcoming it. Go ahead and producer, go ahead and add 100 points to Lux.
$5 from Kai, hashtag Team Ben 6, I think. Yeah, I don't think we're recovering from this unless somebody gives an equal donation.
$10 from Hedonista says, English is a Germanic language. Linguistics rule. Hashtag Team Lux.
All right, if somebody matches the Ben $100, we'll just make both of them do it. They'll each have to do the 2 minutes.
Just
Let's
5
do that.
minutes of...
Yeah.
There you go.
$99.99 is 100 to the person who said that in a chat because you don't have a choice. If you do it from mobile, it's I don't remember which way it is. I think mobile it's always 99 cents. Computer it's always bills or something. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, it's weird. £5 from Harder Gamer says crazy night. It's true. It is a crazy night.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to grab a package that's been delivered. So I'm just going to be right back while you take the next super.
Okay. Convenient. Conveniently grabbing a package.
Must be
$5 from
refrigerated.
Gen 6. Why do cats lick their wieners? Because they can't make fists. Hashtag Team Love Yourself. Hashtag Team Mitternacht.
Y'all don't want to know about cat wieners. So y'all know it's
I don't want to know about cat wieners.
woo! David Haxor with the $100. All right, just tie him up and we're go ahead and I'll send it.
Wow! Holy crap!
Come on now.
You all are committed.
Yeah.
I'll read this one. 101 Canadian from David Haxor. Hashtag Team Ben. You all are amazing. Like
Next super chat
unbelievable,
determines
your
who goes
commitment.
first.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Let's find out who
I
has
was
to
not
give their
expecting
rent
that.
first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not expecting that.
It's a good day.
I was like, I'm free and clear.
Such a good day.
It's probably like people are probably like, there's something about I like when this trans show is at least produced by a cis person. I think is probably what they're saying.
It's called TACIS. Duh.
Yeah, TACIS. Come on.
Yeah.
It is
Wow.
funny because it's like I have seen communities of people argue and they can't figure out. Everybody wants to be mad at me. Okay, it looks like Ben's going first because we got a thing in there. But they're like, all right, is it wrong that a trans show is owned by a cis person? Or would it be wrong if the cis person didn't give up time on their channel for trans people? And they can't kind of like decide between the two. And so I just decided to die.
Yeah, there's no winning. I will simply die.
We had both Tungsten Mum and Kai say Ben goes first.
Mm-hmm.
So Ben, you ready?
First. No, but I guess we're doing it. All right.
Wait,
this is
how does
gonna
this?
hurt
Hang
so
on, I have to
bad.
fix
I might
this.
throw up.
I have to fix this
Yeah,
thing.
this is-
Apparently, there's like
a recent addition.
Do I just put the wait? What the fudge? How
There's
do
like a
I-
lower third with a timer, but she also goes to a
Yeah.
website to activate the timer. I don't really understand it.
No, I know how the timer works. That part's fine. But okay, the topic I put Ben loves shiznit. There we go. Ben loves other producer, can you please stop touching your keyboard and mouse at all, please? Thank you. We're not giving you the name yet. We might fire them.
Secret.
Ben loves chiropractors. And then am I just supposed to put your names in the other boxes? If people haven't figured that out by the end of the show.
I know.
Other challenges besides this one.
Sometimes people click in right at the end.
Ah, shit. It's reversed from the way I thought it would be. I put the names in the wrong spot. Okay, hang on. Dr. Ben, Medical Authority. Your tag.
Oh no.
Oh, you're lucky. I can't put something that long, so it ends after the comma.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Ben, comma.
Yeah.
How do I reset the timer? I know how to use the timer. I don't know how to reset the timer. The timer's already begun. Hang on. What if I just cut away and come back? Whoops. Some people started singing. Reload it, maybe? No, that doesn't do it. All right. Well, you're just gonna have to kind of guess how much longer 21 seconds is. You ready?
I can start a timer on my end.
Yeah, that'll work. Everybody ignore the timer on this end because it'll be
okay. All right.
Let me check one
I've got
more
it on my
spot. Actually,
phone.
I might know where it is.
Okay.
Thank you, Gemnic06, for that super chat.
Maybe I'm
Appreciate that.
Gotta be this one, right? Yeah. Oh, okay. It's not a real timer. It's just a video of a timer. I figured it out. All right, here we go. Tell me when you're ready.
Oh. I'm as ready as I'm gonna be.
Go.
All right. So we all know that there's medicine and then there's real medicine. There's holistic, alternative, real medicine, because all these like regular doctors are sold out to big pharma. And they just want your money. They just want to keep you sick. And that's why chiropractic is the best form of treatment you could ever have for anything. If you have COVID, if you have intestinal parasites, if you have horse-sized intestinal parasites, a chiropractor can give you the real medicine, which we all know is ivermectin. And it makes sure that it is the veterinary dose of ivermectin, because they learn real science in chiropractic school. The reason why, so chiropractors could, if they wanted to, get an MD degree, but they choose not to because they know more. They actually learn more science than everybody else does, because they know that inflammation is the only thing causing problems. And you get inflammation from vaccines and being gay. And that's why if you're gay, you have to see your chiropractor. You have to keep going back every week or even every day if you're really gay. They'll get rid of your gay, they'll get rid of all your other disease. In fact, don't even go see oncology, because chiropractic is all you need to get rid of your cancers. And that's why chiropractic is it's the best.
As a final note, can I just repeat to you, my studio back in Denver was actually underneath the chiropractic office. It was like an office building, and there was a chiropractor right above me. And there was a sign on the window. If I could just tell you what the sign says, and you just give a 1-sentence confirmation of that it is true, that would be great.
Oh my God.
The sign literally said, if the germ theory of disease was true, there would be no one alive to read about it.
For the purposes of the exercise, I have to confirm that it's true, but my opinion will differ outside of this exercise.
That's cheap. Cheap. All right. And then
that's my disclaimer. That was so legitimately painful. I wanted to throw up. I hope y'all are happy.
Yeah, part of it, you could really tell. You were like, ugh.
It was a good punishment, though. It was a good punishment because I hated every minute of that.
And then I think this is the best way to write this one. Okay. Because they're the ones having the Facebook atheist debates. So I'm just going with atheist incels are the best atheists. Now, I don't know why I capitalized incels, like they're a religious group, but too late. Got to stand by it.
Like we're a religious group.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, the first one makes sense.
It's the beginning of the sentence. Yeah. Atheist incels are the best atheists. Not atheist incels are the best incels.
No. No, those are the Peterson incels. The peen cells.
Peen cells.
I love me a peen cell.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah.
Bloop, 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 bloop. Look at that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know that having arguments on Facebook is the best place to do it because, we have all, as atheists, we understand that the best place for us to have these arguments, do it out in public, have a big public debate, but don't do it in a forum where it actually makes sense. Do it in a forum where there's going to be a limited audience of only the angriest people. And that's why you end up with in the best conversations with the incels, because they're the ones who spend a lot of time on Facebook and not 4chan. So, Facebook definitely for incels and not for old people. And Facebook comment sections, every time you see a post on Facebook that has anything to do with politics or religion, just go straight to the comments. Just go straight there. Just even skip the content. Skip the content, go straight into the comments. Let Meta read you a little automatic AI summary of everything that everyone has said in the comments. And then just start firing off all of your best points and reply to as many people as humanly possible. Make sure you have your notification settings turned on because you're going to change hearts and minds. And especially, you're going to change the hearts and minds of the incels. You share atheism with them already, okay? You already have so much in common. You have so much common ground. Certainly, having that one belief in common will make you have similar beliefs about all other social justice issues, right? None of us have never encountered an atheist who isn't super pro-trans, respects and loves women, is nice about people of religious minorities that have no power. There is no such thing of as an atheist who isn't a huge piece of shit. Or so going into the Facebook arguments is the best way to change hearts and minds. Thank you.
Somebody wrote, okay, first of all, you mentioned 4chan. Nobody's on 4chan anymore.
I know, I just got purged.
Bye. 4chan may be gone forever based on the most recent information. The hack that, obviously they could start over, but yeah, they destroyed it pretty good. Somebody in chat had said, in the event of a tie, I should defend astrology. I already know how I would do it. They know how much I hate it, but the way I would do it, I would just start it with, in life is full of decisions. And obviously everybody wants to date somebody hot. But do you want to date somebody hot and smart or hot and easy? If you like the easy path, astrology. That's where I'd begin.
Wow.
That's where I'd begin. That's the people who believe in astrology are hot and easy. Oh my God, the number of people over the years that I was like, no, yeah, I see why you think, but no, it's only like one or two. I gave up on trying to appease the astrology people. We're very nice to pagans, but you bring astrology to me, and I'm gonna fight you. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right, well, have your show back. Sorry for the cisvasion. I'm trying to think of
how
two
dare
nice
you.
words to merge together. I'm sorry I made it such a cesspool. That's pretty good.
That was a good one. That's solid.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that just about does it for us, everybody. Oh, by the way, we didn't mention before, but there's going to be a Cus I Wanna this weekend on Saturday with Forrest Valkai and somebody else. Khaleesi has been posting links to that in the chat there. So we have our
Morticia.
normal scheduled. Morticia was going to be there. So we have our normal scheduled shows for next week. But before then, don't miss out. We don't do shows on Saturday very often. So make sure you hit up the Cus I Wanna on Saturday this week. And then next week, who knows who's going to be on TACIS? We're still figuring that out. Maybe it will be me again. We'll find out. But yeah, so thank you everybody for joining us. Don't forget to hit up the Patreon. That is a way that you can support the show in a more kind of ongoing way. And when we start our end credits for the streams, your name is on the screen, and you get like a special little credit. And you also get access to other secrety
this.
stuff. Yeah, like this, exactly.
Oh, I think this
So
is
if
the
you
old
join-
list. I think I was probably supposed to update this list. My bad. Sorry about that.
Yeah, probably every once in a while. So the list will get updated. If you want to get on the list and support us directly, that helps us make sure that production gets covered. And you get
Yeah, I
extra
might
special
have
stuff
the
like
list. I
access
might
to
be
the
able to do
Discord
this
server.
quickly.
Oh, are we going to do it again?
I don't want to disappoint
Ready to do it again?
people. Yeah, maybe. By the way,
I know.
somebody said Jimmy being such an Aquarius, another one saying such a Sagittarius. Joke's on you, I'm a Leo. Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. People are going to say, I knew it. And then I'm going to reveal I'm actually a Cancer.
Mm-hmm. That's how it works.
But that's just in my personal life. That has nothing to do with astrology. Jimmy is a Cancer. Where the fuck did I put this thing? I know I have
This is the longest I've ever heard this music. Imagine if the list gets long enough that we are still doing this at this point in the song.
Right.
Is that the new list?
I'm
got
finding
it?
it. Just a second.
Okay. It's looping. I see. We're looping.
Looping.
I like jamming to the music. Dancing is so good for you. I think people don't realize, like, dancing is a form of movement. It kind of counts as exercise. It's cardio. It gets some of your feelings out of your body. It's really good for you.
Yeah.
I had no idea there were vocals in this song.
Yeah, I didn't either. This is new. This is, like we haven't heard this much of the song before.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
I'm an Aries, but my tumor is a Cancer. True. Good grief. Well, I need a flood of "Go fuck yourself, Jimmy" in the chat right now.
Okay, there it is. Here's
Yes.
the new one. Here it is. There's the
There we
new
go.
list.
Thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. Join the list by joining up at the Patreon. Get the special gifts and rewards and stuff. Support the show directly. Look at that. Look at all those beautiful
Okay,
people.
no one fell for it the third time, but for the people who at home were like, I believe in astrology, and it's like, ha, I did know he was a Cancer. I'm a Pisces. You look like a fool. A foolish fool.
All right. Sorry, everybody.